I've said you cannot outlift being an asshole. Like, your numbers are going to get you attention. That's not what lasts. I can comfortably say my best numbers are in the rear view, but they're going to get beaten. The weights will be there. You don't want your daughter to look back thinking, my dad wasn't there on Christmas. And your wife, even though you say she's being supportive, and she is, maybe you should take a step back and be supportive.
It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. Bob Merkh, thanks for coming back out again. World's strongest teacher.
Yeah, according to some.
According to some.
Chris Delafave might want to find out.
I believe you're the only one with an 1,100-pound bench and 1,100-pound squat.
I think that's true.
And you just wrote not that long ago this book, Moderation for Cowards, which is what I wanted to sit down and talk to you about. I skimmed it when you first sent it, right, and found a part in there about, oh God, what's his name?
The Island of Misfits, I remember.
Yeah, the Island, and it's kind of why you ended up writing the book,
yeah.
You know, which was odd that I found that first, but I read through the whole thing yesterday, and what I really like about it, it's kind of funny because the sword and the ball, right? The Shogun assassin is a reoccurring thing. You did a good job writing this, by the way. It's a reoccurring theme that's kind of pops up through there, and it was one of the movies that Louis insisted that I have a good funny story, insisted that I watch, right? So when I watched this thing 20 some years ago, it was like a VHS tape.
Yeah.
Right.
So they were hard to get too.
I'm like, this is like 100 years old. I can't watch this. Yeah. This is like awful. It's like terrible. And so I watch it. Then Louis starts with this whole sword and the ball thing. And like, if you follow the sword, you're going to follow, you know, you're going to go through hell. Like if you take the ball, you're going to go with your mother or whatever the clip is, which I think we can probably throw in the beginning of this thing. And I remember saying to him, just to be a dick. Like I know a lot of people that chose the ball that play in like the NBA, the NFL, you know, baseball, like I'm not too sure this is a good analogy. Yeah. Because in the long and short of the whole thing, I think the ball might be the better choice. Yeah. And that's not what the whole thing's about.
No.
Right?
It's like technically they chose the sword.
Yeah,
like, as they woke up early, trained, did whatever else. But yeah.
So that seemed to be, as I was reading through there, the theme. You know, I don't want to say the style because the style is more of a almost like a hero's journey, but not really, right? Because it's
when you lose plenty of times along the way.
Yes, because there's a lot of different writing styles. So there is a writing style. Which I'm laughing because I read a lot of books, but I also read a lot of books by lifters. Yeah, and there's no style. There's no format. You know, to how it's kind of all.
Louis, I love him, but reading his books is because I love him, not because he was a great writer.
Yeah, I mean, this has got a beginning, middle, end. I mean, it's got that whole journey through there. Why did you select that sword, the Shogun assassin, the sword and the ball, is that backdrop for the whole thing?
So it's one of those analogies that obviously, like everyone else, when I came up, I read all of his stuff. So I knew all that story from him and why it was important to him. I've watched that movie with my kids. We love it. You know, it kind of reminds me of Kill Bill's, like a modern version of that. Yeah. But honestly, it kept showing up almost accidentally in my life. Like I love the Wu-Tang Clan. And I don't know, it's like a rap group. I'm sure you know who they are or whatever, but like they loved Shogun Assassin too. So some of the intros to their songs are like clips from that. So like it shows up in my life again. And then funny story, my former student, she was like 14 years old. Her name is Calliope. And she comes up to me at the time. She's like, Mr. Merkh, you have a lot of tattoos. I'm like, I do. I like tattoos. She's like, I want to be a tattoo artist. So I said, that's really cool. I would love that. You know, it's great to have dreams. She's like, well, would you be my first tattoo if I become a tattoo artist? Like, would you let me tattoo you? And I'm like, absolutely. Thinking like I think as a teacher, like no kid does what they say they're going to do. And 7 years later, I get this text message. She gets my number from her mom and she lets me know, like, it's actually funny. She's like, Mr. Merkh, I'm ready to tattoo humans. And it's like, oh, that's a weird sentence to read out loud. Ready to tattoo humans. And she has this ambitious tattoo. So like, this is actually her first like major tattoo. It says, well, it was just supposed to be this, but once I saw like the idea, I'm like, you know what, that fits. I had her choose the sword. So it's just been kind of something that I've embraced, that mentality, although I don't know that it means to me exactly. And I explained that in the book. It sounds like some tough guy bravado thing, but like, it doesn't necessarily mean that to me. Just like moderation to me is probably different than what a lot of people define moderation as.
Well, it's interesting because when you were younger, you're not thinking that.
No.
Because you don't know that, right? So this is all reflection up until 3/4 of the way through the thing.
Another
right?
subtitle.
Right. So you're going back through and reflecting on all these different times, right? And then placing that in there. So what was the first, when you were reflecting, what was the first time that you realized you selected the sword?
So I think I'd subconsciously been selecting it my whole life. Like,
well, actually, let's break down the difference between selecting the sword and not.
Yeah.
For you, what does that mean?
So it's more of how I view the sword. Like, at the beginning, it was like the sword's cool because it's a weapon. Like, I'm going to be this weapon. Like, I was into sports. Like, I'm going to be the toughest guy. If I can't be the best guy, I'm going to make you be like sort of scared of me. So at that point, I'm thinking of the sword as like me, I'm the weapon. And it evolves slowly into like, now I'm going to master how to use this thing and be better with it. So like my version of what the sword means kind of evolves through my life. And then I tried to show that in the book, because then like introduce new characters to the book, like Matt Magnavita, my buddy Tristan Breen. Like now I've become the guy who uses it to the guy who's showing other people like this is the appropriate way to use it. Like I thought of it wrong at first. I didn't respect it the right way. Like I viewed the sword as only a weapon and as just a tool for only inflicting violence, when in reality, it's so much more than that. Like, how do you use it? When do you pass it on? When do you put it away? And more importantly, like sometimes it's not the right choice. So in my life, I kind of came upon that realization slowly. And I tried to get that to come across during the book. Like it was something that I didn't necessarily know I was choosing, but eventually realized like the weight of it.
So as you were in junior high, I believe, because I resonated with a lot of what you were writing in there, because I lived kind of the same thing, right? Yeah. Up until college, where you continued to play ball. But one of the, there was a coach of mine when I was in junior high, and it was around the same time that I started training, because I used to get my ass whipped in all the time. Just,
of course,
you know, on the playground, and even when everywhere, I would just get fucking my ass whipped. And then I started training, and then things started to change, right?
Yeah.
Genetically, I was suited for that. And I started to get stronger. And this guy's motto was basically rip or be ripped, right? So you either rip somebody's fucking head off, or your head's going to get ripped off, right? So then that's how I played. That's how I wrestled. Yeah. And I was rewarded, you know, for that, you know, on multiple planes. Like what we're rewarded for is what we lean into.
I had that coach.
So it's choosing the sword, you know, basically choosing the sword, but also being rewarded for that in ways that I wasn't anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, from
to get you attention.
Yeah, from coaches,
positive attention,
peers.
Fear you, and fear is powerful. Yes. When people like back up when you walk up, it's motivating.
It's very motivating.
When you see another team looking across the field, like, I don't want any part of that guy. Look at him.
Oh no, you're like, you know, this
it just makes you want it more.
Yes. And I don't necessarily know if it's a bad thing. The way I would kind of see that would be, I found the sword, but it was dull.
Yeah.
Right. So the only way you can use a dull sword is just to keep whacking somebody with it.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a bad thing or a good thing inherently either. It's just becomes like, how do you use it sort of thing. My coach, I ran into him. It was interesting. Like I had great coaches when I was young. I tell the story in the book of I showed up, I wanted to play football. My mom made me wait until 5th grade because she was scared I'd get hurt. And she brought me to my local township to play football. And I live in a big township, and they basically like said, we got too many players. We don't want them. And I was devastated because I just wanted to play football, and I went to a Catholic school, so I didn't really have friends. I had friends, but not friends in that area, so they didn't really know me. And they sent me to a neighboring town that had like a terrible football program. And they were thrilled to have me. Like, oh, good, we can have like 22. We might not have to play everyone both ways. Like, this is great. So I had great coaches, kind guys, and they sort of like their mentality was like raising young men. Mm-hmm. And it was awesome. And I still was successful, but it was like a different type of success. And then like I made the all-star team, and the all-stars were held at my hometown. Like that's who was hosting the all-stars. And then because I had some friends they knew from hockey, other sports that I played, and they're like, well, how do you know this kid? Like, he lives down the street. When I went to sign up for football in 7th grade, they took my waiver away. They said, you play for us or you don't play. Even though they're the ones who sent me away. And there's kind of a lesson in that. Mm-hmm. Like I learned like these adults, these grown men care more about winning. Like they sent me away and they won't honor that. They took my waiver, said I have to play for them or I don't play. And that's when I met the coach who would call me his killer. You know, I don't want that quarterback to finish the game type of stuff. And as I now in my 40s and a teacher of all things look back, I'm like, man, that was horrible. Like I was encouraged. And of course, I'm going to listen to adults. That's what you're told to do. You know, your coaches are role models. You listen to your adults. And I was like really weaponized. And, you know,
well, then you were called back to the original school, right?
yeah, they brought me back. They would not let me play where I started. They made me come to EHT. That's the township I'm from. And I had to finish out my football career there.
Were they the same coaches that denied you, or because you were at a higher
They were
level?
the same. It's the same coaches that denied me because they kind of like move up the ranks with their people and they just wanted to win. It was a win at all cost mentality. And if I'm a stud over at the neighboring town, they don't have to sign that waiver. So they brought me back and forced me to play there.
How old were you then? 16, 17?
So not even.
Like not even driving
It was
yet?
middle school. I'm not even driving yet. This is before high school. So you figure I would have been 7th grade, 11,
Yeah.
12 years old. That's the lesson I'm getting.
So how, I mean, you're not really old enough to process that. We're, because there's two ways you could have been with that. You could have been like, fuckers, you know, or you could have been like, it's about time.
It's funny because I had both. At first, I
Yeah.
was upset because I'm like, I'm leaving my friends. I have to reinvent myself. But then, like, I came in with notoriety. So they already liked me. I was this all-star. I didn't have to earn my name. I was put on a pedestal, and these coaches loved me. So I kind of relished in that sort of fame as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm like their guy. You know, who's my killer is what he would say to me. And I'm like, I am, coach. And it's like, I liked that. That was positive attention, you know. It was a good thing.
Now you also had, this is kind of where our stories are a little bit different. You also had teachers that were inspiring you. Where
Yeah.
I was a special ed kid, right? So I had teachers that I don't want to say that. I had teachers that really cared about me, but just
Yeah.
the situation I was in was limited, you know, on what they can
Yeah.
actually do because you're taught to the lowest denominator, right? So on the flip side of that, any classes that I had were open classes. I was getting a D in, and I was excited about it because
Yeah.
it was enough to be eligible,
Yeah.
or the coaches would kind of help,
Yeah.
right? I didn't have any mentors until later
Yeah.
on that education side. So the weaponization of my sword per se, I was also being rewarded because I never had to take a book home
Yeah.
ever, you know, never studied ever, literally just write my name on a test and just mark C
Yeah.
or put NA for, I mean, it was bad.
I mean, I can understand that to a certain extent because education, especially early on, came so easy to me. And when things come easy, I just didn't really value them. So it was like I wasn't bringing home books either. I just paid enough attention to get A's. It was a simple thing for me, which ends up becoming a problem later as I go to advance my education and teachers can sort of like read through the fluff in college and later years of high school. But yeah, I did it. It was fine. I didn't have too many motivating teachers in my younger life. It was once I got to high school and beyond that I had some good ones. But yeah, school at that age was secondary. Sports were everything.
Well, you're a teacher now. I mean, you've
Yeah.
been for well over a decade.
Yeah, almost 2.
The interesting thing when I reflect back on things like this is it made you who you are, right? And if it was done any other way, you may not be who you are.
Yeah,
right. So
change
you
it.
wouldn't, but a lot of people that will go through that same path never have that. I don't want to say full self-actualization because I never believe we actually do that. We just get closer to
Yeah.
it. You're able to realize that it was a tool, right? Where some never realize that, right? And just stay that same way. We see it in the strength sports all the time, right?
I know.
You know, and that becomes a big, we'll talk about later, because a big issue later when they have to exit and they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that balance that you had with that is it gives you two sides of the sword, not just one.
Yeah. And that was important, and it's taken some time, but I've sort of started to embrace that and realize that, and that's why it's good that I am a teacher because my path there was different from a lot of people, and I feel like I identify with students very well.
Well,
There's one thing that I'm good at.
Your journey through that, reading through here, is kind of the same as it was through football.
Yeah,
though.
there's a lot of similarities.
Yeah, I mean, you come out through your education process and you get like a shit. It's not even a real education. It's like
I'm
a bouncer.
I am a bouncer.
Right? So
I was upset about that because I think you read in there the first thing, like I got hired on the spot. I sit down at an interview table and And I'm proud of myself. I worked hard in college. Academics became important because they were hard. There's one thing about my life is like things that come easy, I just have a hard time valuing them. So like once I start struggling in college and I had to work my ass off to get those A's, like now it mattered. So like I graduated with honors. I had 2 degrees. I have a history degree. I've got an education degree. Very few people were able to make it out 4 years with 2 degrees. I feel very proud of myself. And I sit down to this job interview in my suit and tie and I meet a bunch of people and I'm shaking hands and the superintendent walks out after whispering, to the vice principal. And I'm like, oh, I guess he just doesn't sit on an interviews. I get hired on the spot and, I'm there in September. I'm signing with HR, and I find out later what he said was, hire this guy. Looks like he could take a punch. And it's like, man, I worked hard to be more than just a big, strong guy. And what am I rewarded for? The thing I'm trying to escape from, in a sense. And
yeah, but through that job, you
I wouldn't change it. Yeah.
Well, you found purpose in it though, and that's where. So you're basically at that point you're working with. Was it special ed? I mean,
it was a multiply disabled building. I worked with emotionally disturbed students in one wing, physical disabilities in another wing, and like mental cognitive disabilities in another. But it was great because it exposed me to so many different components of education. And I got to work with like such a diverse population of kids. I learned like how to work with everyone. So now that I switched over to general education, I mean, I have my special ed cert now. So I have a little bit of everything and I have a background of working with students of so many different, abilities and areas that it's become very helpful. I wouldn't change it. So,
well, it seems like you were there. Again, there's 2 different mindsets that can go in that position. One can be, I'm just the security person here. When they're losing their shit, I'm going to restrain them. I'm going to put them in the room to be able to settle them down. Or I'm going to try to connect with these kids so it happens less frequently.
Yeah.
Where you seem to be that, so basically taking something and creating a bigger opportunity out of that.
Yeah.
And you're not that old at that time either. So where does that, if it was me at that age, I know what I would have done. I'm the security guy. Yeah. When they're losing their shit, I'm going to put them where they need to go back, start, reading about powerlifting. And instead of trying to figure out, this happens 4 times a month, can we get it down to 3?
I mean, that's an easy one to answer. Like whatever I do, like again, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. If I'm going to do something, like my version of moderations for cowards is this. It's if I'm going to do something, if I'm going to put my effort and energy into it, I'm going to find the best way to do it. Not necessarily the best way for me. So then I have to look at that, like, what is my job? I'm like, all right, I got to keep these crazy, emotionally disturbed. I got to keep these kids under control and I want to do it well. So like, of course I could be reactionary. I could be the guy who answers the Nextel and goes there and wrestles the kids, this, that, and the other. Or, maybe I can develop relationships. And if these kids all of a sudden like me, maybe we don't have so many problems. So that's sort of it's actually something that I started at that school. I asked, when I don't have kids in the in-school suspension room, can I just go around and pull them out of class for 15 minutes? Because, as a kid who doesn't want to be in school, this guy comes, he pulls you out for 15 minutes, you go play foosball. Because we had like a sort of like a recreational room. We even had a gym. Some kids would want to go and work out for 15 minutes. Well, that 15 minutes is, we're developing a relationship. So when that kid does go off, and they will, and it doesn't matter that we have a pre-existing relationship because it's still happening. But when I show up, now I'm not the enemy. It's like, dude, come on, let's take a walk instead of me having to restrain them because I have a relationship. I wasn't always the greatest student. Like I said, I was kind of a pain. So I just tried to always be the teacher that I feel like I would have gotten along with and resonated with. And that's been helping me have success in a bunch of different areas of education.
Well, I want to dig into that a little bit more because my son went to a school like that for his whole education because he is on the spectrum. Yeah. And he was one that was going to lose his shit. And, they come up with a name for those guys, for like goons or whatever they come up with. And I would say out of all of them that they had, I'm just throwing numbers out. Let's say there were 20 through his career. 1 might have been like what you're speaking about. So it's rare, right? So obviously it's not taught, it's not reinforced, it's not. So where's that come from?
I think, like I said, it came from me and my experience through education. Like, I just know that you can't force me into anything. Like, it would have not ended well. Like, you trying to restrain me just straight up is just not going to have the result that you want. But if I respect you, if I admire you in a certain way, like, I don't want to make your life hard. So like that's just was my take on the most efficient way to get these kids on board. And then as I have success, it becomes a thing that other people want to model. So I don't really know. I was just trying to be the teacher, or in this case, I think they called me the crisis intervention counselor. That was my official title.
Well, I'm wondering, is this
of my ability?
Is this genetic? Is this taught? It's that's where it kind of always falls back to, because you're going to model. I mean, there's social factors, and then there's going to be the genetic factors. And I kind of lie in the fact that the social factors are going to always kind of matter more.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. But from what I've seen,
it's always a combination.
Yeah. What I've seen, it does. It matters because you've already found aggression works.
Yeah.
All these other things work. And this, in a way, at that time can be counter to that.
Yeah, there's a quote I talk about in the book. It's a famous quote. It says, better to be a warrior in a garden, a gardener in a war. So it's a famous, I think it's...
Yeah, when you're 40, I can see people figuring that out. Not when they're 20.
I didn't know the quote, but I like success. So like if I find what works, I'm going to keep hammering what works. Now, could I have resorted? And I guess what I'm saying is I already had the strength. I know that at any point I could restrain. So I think because I had that tool in my tool bag already, I don't necessarily want to have to use that first. If I can resolve an issue without having to restrain a kid, that's going to be more successful. So I don't even think that I was thinking philosophically at the time. I'm thinking, what's the best way to do my job? What is the best way to have the fewest issues and the most success? And it just seemed to me like that was a better way.
Were you powerlifting at this time?
I was powerlifting at that time, but I wasn't, I was not competing quite yet. It was right around the time I was getting started though.
All right. Because one of the things that just went through my mind is I spent over a decade bouncing in bars, right? So there were a lot of times to where there was...
Well, I did do that too. And a lot of those lessons are, so you get that, like when you're a bouncer, like you can drag people out of the bar or I can trick them. So like, it's the old, like, I can't hear you. Let's have, you want to talk? I understand. I want to understand what's happened. Like, talk to me outside. Talk to me outside. Come talk to me outside. You play the nice guy, then they walk outside. It's like, listen, man, I can't let you back in.
Yeah, for me, it was a little different because as soon as I was told you can use reasonable force unless you're outside, it's like, okay, I'm throwing people the fuck out. And so I would use, that same aggression that I was rewarded for. And again, I'm rewarded for this too. I can't believe you threw that guy down 30 fucking stairs. Well, fuck him, and until, and this is why I asked about the powerlifting, until one time I grabbed this fucking dude and I threw him against the wall, and it wasn't, I've done way worse than what that was. But as soon as he hits the wall and the other bouncers kind of take him down, I can't move my fucking arms. Like both my bicepsal tendons I'm fucked up. I'm like, I can't straighten my arm. I got fucking ice bags. I fucked my bench up for 3 weeks. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right. Because it's now
I work smarter.
Yeah. So where I'm
hurt myself if powerlifting's everything, I can't risk benching.
No,
benching
not for some fucking drunk idiot. This is stupid. And, it doesn't seem like that was the case with you. It was more this inherent of just trying to be the best. I wasn't trying to be the best bouncer. I'm just trying to make money to buy test. Yeah. It's essentially all it was. And so as you're going through and once you become the teacher, and you have your own class, what was that process like, getting adjusted to that?
It was pretty easy because you go from kids who will stand up and fight you to kids who are waiting to listen. I was lucky. I got a job at a great district.
How much did the other job play into that?
So it played into it really well. Like when I'm getting questions in my interview, like, do you think you could handle classroom management issues? I'm like, I've got experience. Like, I don't think any kid here in Upper Township, New Jersey, which is an affluent area, is going to be giving me the problems that I've been having in my previous job. And it's actually funny because the first job that I took, I was looking for years. Then I got that one job and I had it for a year. And then I really wanted my own classroom. I got hired 4 different schools at like the same time. That's how it goes. Like everyone hires you at once and I got to decide. And the job that I took, I actually still work there. I've been there almost 2 decades at Upper Township, was my 4th grade teacher sitting in at the interview. I didn't expect to see him there because I just sent my application to anyone who would have me. And he liked me, but he was like, I might like you just because you're my student. Like, I got to interview you again. And I ended up having to sort of rush their decision because I had to take a job. Like, these other 3 are telling me I got to make it. So they end up hiring me sort of bringing me in, and having him, he becomes like another one of those. I talk about him as Ken Barth. He becomes a really positive influence on not just my teaching, but my life, because his philosophies mirrored my own, but he was obviously older. So it's almost like he helped me understand who I was that I didn't know, like who I became by accident. He could help me understand who I was becoming. So I had the right boss as far as like running things in the classroom. Academically, I feel like I was a pretty good teacher. I tried to teach the kids the way that I would have wanted to be taught. So I was like the young, fun teacher. But I think I was getting plenty of content and things like that in there. The hardest part when I was a brand new teacher was finding meaningful connections with like 11 and 12-year-old girls. That was a challenge. They were an enigma. Like I have a daughter, but like at that time she wasn't that age. So I'm like, how it's almost like they speak a different language. Middle school boys were simple. I had a million things we could connect over. And then it was like these 12-year-old adolescent girls. I'm like, I don't know how to talk to you people. Like, I don't know how to make you like school because I don't know what school is like for you. And then that's funny. I get a lot of flack because I like Twilight, like the Twilight books and movies. And I'm like, well, you got to understand, like that was the book they were all reading. I saw that book, and just like I found out a way to like do my one job well, I'm going to preemptively talk to people. I'm like, all right, if all of these girls are reading this book, I'll read this book. I'll find something that I can have in common with them. And that's what I did. So that becomes like the language that we share, the language of Twilight. And again, the same girl who did this tattoo, she's got a Twilight tattoo. I've got a Twilight tattoo. It's one of those things that I very proactively sought out a way to establish those relationships.
Throughout this entire book and the whole timeline up to where we are currently speaking, a big part of that is being surrounded by people that can mentor you.
Yeah.
And the interesting part with that is we're always surrounded by people that can mentor us, good nor bad. You have to make the decision on who you're going to surround yourself with, right? So when I read through something like this and all other books as well, people mention their mentors, but they don't mention the people that were also positioned that could have been mentors too. So it almost reads like the only people that were there were these people. But in hindsight, there are all these other ones that far outnumber the ones that you lean toward.
Yes.
Right. So it's a double question here. Like, how did you know those were the ones to lean toward? Right. And then how did they know to be able to put their time in you?
Well, the second one I'll answer first because that's easy. Once I decide, like it's like with anything else, if I've decided like I need you as a mentor, I really didn't give them options. Like the one guy you'll hear me talk about, I dedicate the book to, Coach Kember. Like he was just my strength room coach when I was in high school. But like I looked at this man and instantly, like I decided, the first time I ever saw him on a bench press, he benches 405 for 10 and just puts it away, self handoff. And I'm like, okay, I need that. Like, what else does he do? So I've already, like, he won me over with his physical appearance, but then I just learned the way he sort of like treats people. He was the nice coach. He was the one who would be giving kids rides home. Kid didn't have cleats. He's buying them cleats. And I just admired him.
All right. Well, let's break that down a little bit. He caught your attention with that.
Yeah.
He won you over with the other actions.
Yeah.
Right. Where I think that's an important message for people that are fucking big, jacked in strength sports. You're always going to garner the attention, but what you do afterwards determines the impact or impression that you're going to have.
I have said this line a million times. I'm somewhat known for it.
I built Elite FTS in 1998, 27 years ago, with the aim to help educate as many people as I could in strength and conditioning. And the way to do that was to keep all the content complementary. The way that we've been able to do that since day one is by providing the best products possible to help your training program. If you can put the item in a gym bag or load plates on it, we have it and it will work. Everything from SS yoke bars to American press bars, bands. We also have a strength equipment specialist staff that helps outfit home gyms, sport training centers, colleges that have over 3 decades of experience and also have spent a lot of time working as coaches so they understand the flow of the weight room and how things actually get done. If you're serious about your training and you want to up your game and support the podcast and all the content that we provide, head over to elitefts.com and use the code TABLETALK at checkout to receive 10% off your orders.
I've said you cannot outlift being an asshole. It's not possible. Like, your numbers are going to get you attention, but like, that's not what lasts. Like, I'm living the stage of my career right now where I can comfortably say my best numbers are in the rear view. I had great numbers, but they're going to get beaten. Everyone's numbers are going to get beaten. And that's what we want as people who love this sport. Like, you want to see it evolve. You want to see it grow. You want to see the freaks get freakier, but you also want your legacy. So like, you want to be the person who helps those freaks build themselves. You want to be the person who's remembered because they answer the Instagram messages. They work with the younger athletes who look at you like, I mean, let's face it, we're all just lifting weights. So when people are messaging me about this book, like, I can't believe you're talking to me, I'm like laughing to myself. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, of course I'm talking to you. It's why wouldn't I?
Well, if I go back into what attracted you to them, right? Because that strength is there, but that's catches the attention, right? But he could have been an asshole.
Yeah.
Right. And then you could have mirrored being an asshole. Because a lot of people do.
I don't think I would have continued to follow the way that I did if I didn't. He caught my attention with like the benching and his physical size and all, but I admired how he treated everyone and I wanted to be like him. And honestly, like I said, things that are hard, I'm drawn to. Well, you read in the book, like the first time I told him, I'm like, I want to be like you. Like, it's like, no, you don't. Like, I was sort of like put off, like, no, you don't, you want to be big and strong, but you don't want to be like me. And he didn't make it easy. It's like, I'm in the school. Like, I know the things about you. I know what you do on weekends, this, that, and the other. There's no room for that sort of, if you want to be like me. If you want to be like me, big, strong, good at stuff, like, it requires a different level of dedication. And as anything else in my life, you tell me what I can't be. And I'm like, all right, I can do that.
Well, he's calling you, you see what I'm saying? That's where I'm going, is he's calling you out for the partying and the other stuff, right? Where at the same time, there were mentors there.
Yeah.
Right. But you didn't lean towards them, but you leaned towards him.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm getting at, is where did that come from? I mean, obviously nobody wants to be an asshole, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't believe people are born to be, well, maybe some are. I don't believe people are born to be assholes. Yeah. Right. They're conditioned and rewarded to be that. Right. You get what I'm saying? So you're in both of these worlds.
Yep.
I'm kind of the same way when I was with the whole football thing, you do your height. It's like, no, I don't want to deal with you fuckheads because it's going to mess up my recovery and I'm not going to be able to perform well. So that was my main reason to not drink and do all those other things. But you're in both these worlds. It could have very easily been somebody in that other world.
Oh, absolutely. And there were, like you said, plenty of examples where I could have gone that way. But man, and again, maybe it's just luck. Maybe it's the fact that this guy saw something in me and was willing to work with me. But, I see him, he's big, he's got a 69 Mustang. He's got this giant Newfoundland dog that he brings to training. He's got money. I didn't know he owns like that local butcher shop. Like, everything he had seemed so cool that I'm like, that seems like he has a good life. Like, I want what he's got working over there. So I got to do what he did to make it happen. And that's like, I started just trying to mirror a lot of the lessons, a lot of things that I saw him doing, and it's not that I don't have a good home life. My parents are great too, but it's hard to find. And I tell people this all the time, because I talk to a lot of parents. It's like, it's hard to be your kid's parent and also like the person that they see themselves wanting to be. Because like, naturally, it's just like, doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. They're going to look for external influences because, you have to be their disciplinarian. You're their parents. You have to be the good guy, the bad guy. You got to be Santa Claus. You got to be it all.
But overall, you're still an example.
Yeah. And then like looking back, I'm like, oh, it's a good thing, because the reason I'm looking for people like, Coach Kember, like Ken Barth, my mentor from school, like that comes from the values that were ingrained in me from my parents.
Which is,
so like, that's
an interesting thing, is because I can look back at what my parents were telling me before I was in junior high, even probably more so through junior high, because I'm kind of in both of these worlds, right? You don't want to hang out with these people. You don't want to do this. And I despise them, for telling me I can't hang out with this certain person, that I would hang out with them more. But looking back, they were right.
Oh yeah.
Right. But I did the opposite,
and
that it's fucked up to think about, right? Because did doing the opposite make me realize that it's not the right crew to hang out? Because on the athletic side, it was just as fucked up too. There was sometimes more shit going on there than on the burnout friends that, and my age, the burnout friends might smoke weed twice a week, right? But the athlete side's getting fucking drunk every night and doing all kinds of crazy shit, but getting away with it.
Yeah.
Because
you can.
They can.
It's different.
It's easier for them to get away with. And, but was your experience kind of like that as well, to where you can look back and you can see your parents were trying to guide and instill these values, but at the time you were like, shut up?
So what's funny is the things that they told me, much like you, the things that they told me to do, I didn't listen to. I think the lessons that I got from them, like the lessons that I'm talking about, like looking for people like coach and things like, they were the subconscious ones, the ones that you get that you don't realize you're getting. Like my dad's the kind of guy, he worked in a casino, right? So a lot of people, a lot of Asians there, they didn't speak English, and he became like the guy. Like next thing you know, he knows a bunch of Chinese, and he's like helping these people with like paperwork. He's going and putting up their fences for them, and it just like never anything in return other than some weird ass food that would get sent to my house where I'm like, what is that? And he's like, I don't know. It's Vietnamese. Like, are we eating it? Like, fuck no. It's like, but like I watched him sort of do that stuff and be that guy for them. And I didn't intentionally think like, oh, I'll be doing things like this someday. But my mom was in the union. She's the shop steward, stuff like that. So she's taken on volunteer roles, and it was totally normal to come home and see like people sitting at my table and have her helping them with issues and stuff like that. It just became sort of what I thought people did. Same thing with, my dad was strong. I think I told you this story last time when I was here. It's like, I used to think my dad was weak because I had coach. He could bench press 405 for 10 easily. It's like, my dad can only do that for 1. Well, you think back and like, damn.
Yeah.
It's like, no one's dad can do that, but it's what you are around. So those subconscious lessons that I was getting, and the lesson there is like, to a parent listening, and I think that's always true, like the stuff that you model is always going to be the things that your kids pick up on, because they don't know they're picking up on it. It's just what they see. That's their reality. The stuff that you tell them to do, it's just defiance. It's just natural. Yeah. It's like, so like, and listen, I got twins who are 21. Like I know, and now that I'm a parent, it's like, I can't tell them what to do. Like I have to let them figure things out. And then, my daughter will be listening to this. She actually is a big part of the reason that I wrote this book. That'll be something that we probably get into, but because she wrote it kind of along with me, reading it every night. And like, she's like, oh God, you're right again. And I'm getting to that stage now. So it's kind of fun. And then you watch your relationship go from like the one they had to defy or hide things from to the one that they now become like kind of like friends with. And,
so it's for the parents, it's less about what you say, but more about what you do.
Act and nonverbal. Yeah, it is like they are watching. And it's the same thing for teachers. It's the same thing. Honestly, it's the same thing in the gym. Like, think about it. The people who walk out on their accessories. The people who, when they get done their main movement, are going to walk in there and get right to work and work hard. If you want to be like them, like that's what you see. Not what they tell you to do, but like what they show you to do. Like you worked out with Chuck. I can only imagine. Like, it's like, I can't imagine watching that energy other than when I watched Vogel pull triple X for the millionth time. Like it's what they're doing, not what they're telling you to do.
Well, it's also, I guess another part, since we're on the parent thing, another part would play into it is paying attention to what the kids are doing. Right. Cause I remember my mother telling me hundreds of times that she always knew more about what we were doing than what we thought she did, because she would just listen to us in the back seat, taking us to practice wherever we were because we're stupid.
Yeah,
and we're totally talking about everything.
Yeah.
So all she had to do was to be the one to do the driving and not have to say anything.
Yeah. And then honestly, like we think we're slicker than we are as kids. Like, and then it's funny because, as parents, like you have to decide, like, how do you want to react? Like, do I want to be mad at this? And it's like funny because it's a conscious decision. It's like, well, she made a dumb mistake and I don't really care, but I have to pretend that I care because I also need her to grow, or I need them to grow and learn and develop from this. So it's a balancing act that you play as a parent, but it's the same thing in all relationships.
Now, something that I was reminded of reading through here that I don't think we talked about that much the last time was you were competing raw at a high level for a while. And I don't think people know this.
I know they don't know this because the amount of times that people like,
I had to read it twice.
You couldn't do it raw.
Yeah. Then I had to go look at open power.
Yeah.
And I was like, there was a lot of, I don't want to say you were anti-multiply, but you were
I was kind of
anti-multiply.
anti-multiply. I'll own it.
Yes, and
I didn't understand. All right, I was unenlightened.
yes, so you came in, which is kind of odd because you came in when it was after Raw. I mean, Raw was getting more popular, but it wasn't as popular as it is now.
No, yeah, it was
Right?
like Dan Green was just elevating
It was
it.
just starting.
It was the 220s. It was like
Yes.
Dan Green. You had the Lilla Bridges pushing it. You had like that was like a good my first meet that I went to. Like my first, not my first meet, but my return to powerlifting was in 2013. Well, I'm there with Carlos Reyes, Kevin Oak for their first meets, and it's my first meet back. And like looking back at those guys now and what I know of them now, I'm like, man, what a cool return to powerlifting, because Raw was just kind of exploding.
Yeah, I would
That
say
was the Raw with wraps blow up, and now the kind
Yeah.
of wraps fall off and more sleeves.
just interesting.
It's because the sleeves are as good as wraps.
Yeah, I want to say it was like 50-50 at the time, but it probably wasn't. It was probably 60-70% gear,
Yeah,
30% raw. So you were kind of going against,
I kind of
what
like
was out there.
flipped.
which is weird
Yeah.
because a lot of the people that were in that raw group were super bonded.
Yep.
Because it's like, screw these guys that are getting all this extra weight out of the equipment. They're not lifting real weights, all this other stuff. And they were able to kind of build around that. But it wasn't the most popular, so how did you end up getting now? Now the question is, how the hell did you end up multiply?
So
Where back then,
that's an easy one because it's like a two-part story. So I'll say I was a little anti-multiply because I didn't understand it. And now that I understand it, but I'm still pro raw. So like I'm one of the guys, I love both. I had good raw numbers. I think I had top 10 or top 20 squats in 3 different weight classes.
we were at Arnold a couple times.
Yeah, second place at the Arnold, the Palco, who's from out here, one of Lexon's guy, like pretty good numbers, this, that, and the other one. 2014, when I did that first Arnold, I didn't have anyone else going out here. My crew wasn't what it is now. And I found a guy who was going to the Arnold. Bill Fritz is his name. He was a local guy. His gym was 20 minutes away from mine. He had a basement gym just like I did. And I basically said, like, hey, like, can I train? I need someone to wrap my knees. Like, it's like, my wife's not going to do it. I don't have a training crew who travels with me yet. I'm sort of at that early stage in my career. And he said, well, why don't you train with us? Deal. But they were all multiply. So like I was around it, but I was strong enough at the time where my raw numbers could keep up. I'm squatting like low 800s raw. They're squatting, around 900 multiply. So like it was enough where I fit in. But honestly, like the culture of their group was awesome. Like there was never a time, like it didn't matter if it was you got 2 plates on the bar, you still have 3 people spotting you. You still have like 2 plates, bars at 14. And I'm like, they ran things just so different from what I was used to. It felt like professional. Like it was, and then I get it now because like when you get into those big weights, like it's habitual. Like you don't want to misload. So like I sort of like started training with those guys. Then I really liked it. And at that time, the plan wasn't I'm going to go multiply. The plan was I'm going to stay raw, but I'm going to train with these multiply guys.
Yeah.
And then I actually got injured.
Well, before
First
you
time,
went
man.
there, you were training out of your basement, right?
Yep.
And we'll get into the reasons behind that. But so you really didn't have a comparison though, did you, outside of training for football?
No.
Right. So the camaraderie, the camaraderie could have been the same in a raw group. You didn't know.
I just had no idea.
Yeah.
Now, I had my own raw group, but I think it was a level of like what matters to you. Like I had like the local dads who wanted to get strong. They wanted to do powerlifting meets, but it was like, well, that's just something fun to do on a weekend. Like, and then we can go to, Hershey Park or something after. Like it was like powerlifting was a true hobby to them. And it was to me kind of at that point too. I just really like to be good at things once I decide I'm going to do them. So I'm bad at just casually doing anything. But I saw their camaraderie and kind of loved it. And then it was the next year. So it was 2015. I did something probably stupid. I cut to 242, squatted my first squat over 800 pounds. 805 at 242. And then there was a meet the next weekend that people were talking about. It's in Atlantic City. I'm like, you know what? I'll do that too. I'll keep cutting. I'll cut to 220. And then I squat 775 the next weekend at 220. And on my second bench, tear my rotator cuff. So like, life happened. I was stupid. I played stupid games. I won the stupid prize. But again, things happen for a reason, because in recovering from that on my way to go back to raw, or so I thought, one of the guys that I trained with is like, I have an idea. Why don't you try a bench shirt and just like work some high boards? Like, if nothing else, build some lockout strength for your raw, get some carryover. I find out later he was totally just trying to get me in gear. And as a guy now who's like devoted so much of their career to multiply, I'm like, yeah, I'd have done the same shit.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, once I get this guy in, there's no turning back. And, so I start benching, but honestly, it wasn't because I was successful. The bench shirts, I'm like, I hate this. Like, I'm getting my ass kicked because on a 3 board, I suck. I have no lockout strength like these guys. So I'm like, move the boards. I want to go all the way down. Like, no. So it was frustrating, but man, the first time they put me in a pair of briefs, I think I squatted like 900 without knee wraps in a pair of briefs. I'm like, there it is. Never going back.
Did your squat style have to change?
No. If you look at my videos of my old raw squats, I've always been a very like abductor, adductor dominant. Like, I can tell you there were times where people would tell the meet directors, like, I've been searched on the platform because I squatted slow. I squatted wide. People just assumed I was cheating. I can remember one time Gene like running up to me, Richlack, and like literally putting his hand up my singlet right after I squatted and like feeling, I'm like, whoa, I'm getting assaulted on the platform. And he's like, no, I just wanted to stop you here because I literally wanted to prove to the audience that you were raw. That was actually right after the 775, right before I blew off my shoulder. And I'm like, oh, he's like, I didn't want to do it in the back because I wanted witnesses. Like, it's all you up there. I'm like, thanks, Gene. You could have told me that first.
Yeah. So when did the adductor tear come in?
Oh, I had torn adductors before just because of how I squat. My very first, in 2013, I tore an adductor on my opening squat. And I'd had tons of issues with that. And that's why when I switched to gear, you put these briefs on, man, it's like having all of it was like my only weakness in the squat was now neutralized. So like I took to squatting in gear. Like my first meet I barely trained for, I squatted 955 and I didn't even know if that was good or not. And then by my second meet, I'm totaling 2,500, squatting over 1,000.
How did you get used to the pick of that, just the load?
What's funny is I have always been a big fan. Like, so I would use reverse bands. I liked overloading myself. So even raw, it wasn't totally abnormal to see me handling those weights, and people would tell me it was stupid. I'd use reverse average bands. And people were like, what's the point? Well, the point is I can stand up with more and it's comfortable. So it wasn't really something I even had to adjust to. Matter of fact, it was kind of easier because I had hip support.
Do you think that you see your raw base coming in? I'm looking at it a little bit different because you are developing the adductors, for that.
Yeah, I think it's not so easy to transfer from brawl to multiply if you squat traditionally.
Yes.
Like I had the right sort of strengths and I didn't have a lot of the weaknesses that you have if you're a more traditional, like narrow stanced, knees tracking forward type of squatter. And I know that this works because there's people actually, Kyle Sheridan, he's been out here. Like I remember was a raw guy with me. And when he was struggling with his squat, I put him in a pair of briefs. And because he had a similar squat style. So he actually used briefs. He didn't switch right away. He switched to multiply, later. But he was using briefs almost the way that people would use like a slingshot. He would do his raw work, put on a pair of 2-ply, non-grid stitched loose predators, do a couple overload sets. And that was part of his squat training that we kind of came up with that idea together. So because he had that stance. So it won't work for everyone. But if you are like a hip dominant, abductor dominant squatter, that was something that worked for me raw.
So he's doing that after his work sets.
He was doing that. Yeah, he would literally, it was oversized. I want to say it was in like a pair of 40s. Mm-hmm. And he would work up, put his wraps on everything, do his last set, and then he would throw the 40s on, literally just throw them on and use them for a couple overload sets because he didn't have to change his form. Yeah.
So when you got into, going back to the sword and the ball, so when you get into powerlifting, you're choosing the sword again for that.
Yep.
But it's a little different than football.
Yep.
Right? Because you're not running into people, so the aggression needs to be, I don't want to say controlled because it needs to be controlled in football too, or you're going to be an idiot. More controlled.
Yeah. Focused.
And how did you go about embracing that without having it be a hindrance? By that, I mean, we'll see people that are way too aggressive for what they need to be. And they don't have, maybe they make it through the squat, but then they're done.
Yeah.
Maybe. sometimes they don't even make it through that.
I think by the time so I was going through so many life changes. I think it was just like I naturally sort of fell into a good place because by the time I pick up powerlifting, like we'll say for real, because I had done it from like 2007, like sporadic meets, like I said, when I was training with those guys. But like I really consider my start like 2013 on is when I really started getting into it and treating it as more of like a more than just some fun thing that I do because I already lift weights. Well, at that time, I've got, twins who are getting older. I'm a decade into my career as a teacher. I have a young son who's, now in eighth grade at this point. But I think like sort of the person that I became, I didn't have that same like, I could still be aggressive, but it meant something different. Like at this point, I'm more of a role model. I want them. So like when I'm taking my squats, I'm not snarling at the bar and things like that. Like I'm looking at my family sitting in the front row, like my kid's in his car seat. It was always like a family thing because my gym's in my house. Like my kids have extra uncles, not just lifters who come through. Like I've been lifting with the same group of guys since my kid was in diapers and now they're still around. So I never had to be like a snarling, angry guy. I just wanted to be someone they could look at and be proud of. And not to say that I didn't get focused and intense, but it was an easy transition because at that point in my life, I didn't need that aggressiveness anymore, that anger.
Now the home gym started way before that point.
Yeah.
Right. So how did that start? And I believe I read in there, your wife said that you basically had to do this to be able to.
It was her idea. I still wonder if I think she's here working right now. I still wonder sometimes if she regrets it because, I was we had a good gym locally. It had a monolift and stuff like that. But like to really train to be good at what we do, it's a commitment. Like it's a time commitment. And I never wanted to be like the absent father. So like it was hard for me because I didn't want to miss, your kid's soccer game on weekends. So it's hard to have like a set training program. Well, she kind of came up with this idea, like, let's just invest. Like at a time we didn't really have the money and stuff, but it's like, let's do the best we can. We're going to put the things that you need, we're going to put them here. So it started small, you get your power rack, competition bench, and then just little by little as I developed, as I got a little bit better and needed a little bit more, got more people in to sort of share the financial burden of it. And the gym sort of grew with my career. Like the better I got, the more stuff we had. And now, and it used to be like when my kids were younger, it was the whole basement wasn't the gym. You actually had like the workroom. It's like where the kids would do their homework. And like it was also a playroom. And then there's a window cut in where I was in the gym, but I could walk over to that window and make sure they were doing their work. They would literally get done their homework, slide it across. I could, in between sets, look at it, figure out what was going to turn it back around and give it to them. So it was just kind of a way of like pursuing my own life goals without my family having to suffer for it. Like I was still a present dad. I'm still down there. I'm doing homework with them. Like my wife's not home from work yet. I got home earlier since I was a teacher. They were getting their stuff done. And, I didn't have to give up my dream or be a bad parent. I got to do both. Like I got to be a good parent and still pursue my own goals.
It's easier said than done because it's
so much easier said than done.
Powerlifting can be once you commit, right? And there's a difference between the hobby and committing. Once you commit, it's powerlifting can be like a swamp, like not a swamp. It can be like quicksand.
Yeah.
Right. You can move quick on the quicksand and never get sucked, but a lot of people get sucked. Right. And then when they get sucked, all other things become a vast second priority, myself included, for a long period of time. And you think that you're sacrificing, but you're not. Everybody else is. You've destroyed everything else. But so it's like, you don't know it because it's quicksand.
Yeah.
Like you don't know it until your fucking head is being pulled under. Then you're like, the fuck did I get myself in? Where you seem like you inherently knew that this was fucking quicksand from the jump.
Yeah.
And how did you know that? Did you see just from the outside looking in?
I wish I could take the credit, but again, I had great role models and mentors. If I tell you more about Coach, like he would call me out. Like when you have a guy who's your mentor, but also your friend at this point, like if I started to go too far one way, I had someone telling me who honestly, he learned the lessons through doing it wrong. And again, that's important. Like he put the fact, like he learned everything that you needed to do. So, he's got a gym in his house. I had my gym in my house, but we would eat breakfast together every Sunday. We'd work out every Thursday. And if there were things that I needed to be told, he would tell me. He was comfortable telling me. So it was okay. Like, and I got to see him. Like he was a great dad and a great lifter. I'm like, so it can be done.
So it also goes back to when he told you from the very beginning, you don't want to be like me.
Yeah. And again, like to do it, like you said, it's not easy, but it can be done. So I always say moderation's for cowards. It's like the thing, it's the book, it's what I always say, but I also say balance is important. And people are like, you can't have the motto moderation's for cowards and then talk about balance. I'm like, well, you can, but you got to realize, like, when I say balance, what I mean is like you have to cut out the things that don't matter. So you got to prioritize. So like lifting was important to me. So like, did my family have to make sacrifices? Did my wife have to, give up some of the money so that I could have the gym? We have to skip certain vacations because all of our vacations were extensions of powerlifting meets? Yes. Do I think I've been making up for it ever since? I try to. But also that was one important thing, but like family and work were the other important thing. So like, what can I cut? I had to shrink my circle. I didn't have as many friends. I didn't go out drinking with like my college buddies like some of them did. You kind of like lose your social circle as you're the one who, people stop calling you after the fifth no. Like, hey, you want to go out and get beers? No, I got stuff. So you do make sacrifices, but they're making sacrifices too. But when you stop and look back, like if you really stop and think about it, you didn't need those things. They weren't helping your goal. So like you got to figure out like what are the things that matter most and what's going to help me achieve them. Well, I would argue that being a good father and role model and parent like helps you with your powerlifting goals. I think it does.
Well, I would agree. I think the big takeaway there is when you're in that mindset, you're always looking at you're always looking for things that can help, right? And then you'll add in all those things.
Yeah.
Right? Healthy and not, but you're going to add those in, but you're never thinking about what are the things I can take away.
Yeah.
That would help.
And it's important. I mean, how you do anything is how you do everything. So like, I don't want to be like a partway drinker. Like I don't have time for that. Like it's got to go. I don't have time for certain things. I don't have time. Like I'm not going to spend money on nice cars. I'm going to get like, what can I afford to pay off? Because if I lease a nice car, I might not be able to have two competition benches. And I want to be able to be doing my shirted bench while someone else is doing their raw work. Like I had to make decisions, and all those decisions were pointing me towards success, and anything that didn't help just had to go.
Well, you've mentored a lot of lifters as well. And if you have two lists in front of you, and it's like write down everything that impacts your powerlifting or impacts your strength, and then write down all the things that don't, right? The things that don't it's an extensive list. Yeah. I mean, where I'll say if your nutrition, your rest, your sleep, your social circle, if all those things are positive, that has a compounding effect beyond what people would realize. But they will alienate a lot of those things and then double down on drama, which they have no control over, stress about things that they have no control over. And their brain is being occupied way too many hours of every day on stupid shit they have no control over that impedes their recovery, which all those things, if they're just eliminated, make a huge difference.
Absolutely.
But a lot of those things they kind of get addicted to as well. Right. Which become those conversations that you have to have with some, or this is the other thing. They always think, and I did, and sometimes I probably still do. You always think this next thing is the thing, or if I do this, it will lead to that. Yeah. Right. And everybody thinks this, by the way. I think that's the other misnomer is people think that they're the only
There's
one.
Always one more. We're almost one there. One more.
Yeah.
Got it. We're right there.
Yeah. Like I'm the only one going through an identity crisis. No, everybody is. Yeah. I'm the only one that has imposter syndrome. No, everybody does. Yeah, I
just went through this with my decision to kind of approach retirement. It's like everyone thinks I got a couple more years. I got one more big one left until you're you have to be honest with yourself. Yeah.
Yes. And everybody thinks that, right? It's not like you, but you'll feel like you're the only one. Yeah. Right. And that's the kind of the big takeaway with all that, where if they realize that, that's a big thing there, is the realization. You kind of touch on this a little bit because we're getting into some stoic type of shit here. Like us having this conversation right now, my reality is different than your reality, which is different than his reality.
Yeah, that actually leads me to a question. This is actually kind of for both of you, actually. When you guys were training, like hitting powerlifting pretty hard, I mean, I know a lot of couples who work out together, and your wives can't really do what you guys do. So it's like, I know it's good for a relationship to train kind of, or at least work out with your wife or girlfriend or whatever. How did you go about navigating that, trying to, because you talked about it a little bit, how you were kind of separating the two and kind of prioritizing. So like, how did you, like, maybe you didn't train with your wife, or maybe you did. How did you go, either of you, how did you go about kind of navigating that to kind of be a good husband and, like you said, a good father? How did you go about kind of like planning that out?
The funny thing for me is I tried to pick up my wife through using the gym, because one of the first times I met her, I talk about her extensively in the book too. My wife is amazing. I can't say that enough. And my life would be probably shambles without her, but luckily she would never let me go down that road, because she'd fix me before we ever did. We don't train together now because I'm kind of, she doesn't like being told what to do either. And she's smart enough to know that, like, down there, I'd be the expert. So, like, she does her own thing, Jim's her own way, this, that, and the other. But in terms of the important part of the question, like, how do I manage being a good husband? Because that comes first. I just literally put that first. I mean, she puts my lifting on a high level, but she's not scared to tell me, like, if I need to be somewhere, need to back, need to skip lifting for something. Like, I have enough respect where that's what I do. And I was actually just about to tell you a story that I think kind of leads into this about you say a mentor lifters, and he won't mind me saying it because he loves you, he loves me, Tristan Breen. All right. I talk about in the book, and in many ways the book exists because of him, and all because of one story that he told me one day, and he told me with pride, but it like hurt my heart. He's got a young daughter, Hadley. They've become like family to me, a wife, Rachel, who's amazing. And he was talking about like how his daughter was going to have to wait to open her Christmas presents because Christmas fell on squat day and he was going to be training. And like, he told it to me with like bravado. Now, at the time I met him at the 2020 WPO, like semifinals. He was nothing but potential, great guy, great person, but like he was a lifting fan more than he was like an elite power lifter. He had good numbers, but even with the good numbers, he was sort of like in awe of the people in that room. And when he told me that, I had to like have a serious conversation with him. Like, listen, buddy.
I just want to take a moment to let you know about our crew. What our crew is, it allows the show to stay independent, and it's the reason why
the weights will be there. You don't want your daughter to look back thinking, my dad wasn't there on Christmas, or I had to wait for him. And your wife, even though you say she's being supportive, and she is, maybe you should take a step back and be supportive too. Like you can, the one day won't kill you, but your kid not having a Christmas like that might come back and bite you. And to this day, like he almost moved out to Ohio. He was ready to move out with like Hoff and them. And I actually helped him even get a job out here. Like I helped him as much as I could. And once we got him squared away, I said, you're ready to go, but don't do it, man, or do it. But like, I don't think it's right for you. So the end result of this whole long story is he kind of listens to me. He skips the training. He becomes that dad. He stays in Utah where he's at. And now, instead of being like the guy who followed other people, now he's the guy. He's the guy out there building people, and he's the guy whose numbers are ready. And he's, I'll bet money that he squats over 1,000 at his next meet at 242. And he's there. He's ready. And I think a big part of the reason is not me. I just sort of pointed him in the right direction. Is how you do anything is how you do everything. He's found that balance, and the demons are gone. Like, I think a lot of times the people that put their families behind them, like they know. They might not own up to it to themselves, but like, because I've been there too. I haven't always been perfect. I like to think I've gotten a lot better. But like, you can appreciate, like I appreciated what my wife did for me and all, but I don't think I understood it at first until I've sort of come to that understanding later. So when your family's on the back burner, when you're lifting ahead of your health. And once you sort of find that balance, it makes you better, not worse. And I think that's what a lot of people need to realize. Tristan realized it, and he's great. And honestly, lifting can go away tomorrow, And if all you had was lifting and it goes away, you got nothing left. If you have your daughter who loves you and remembers her Christmas and your wife who's happy with you and the lifting goes, you got people to fall back on. So long answer to an easy question, but I treat my wife right because she has always been there and I want her to continue to be there. And I want my family to look at me not just as my dad's a great lifter, although I do think that's cool and I want that to matter. I want them to be like, my dad is an admirable man and I can take his lessons and do whatever the hell I want to do, whether that is lifting like him or owning a business.
My story is a little different here, where I was that guy that vetted everybody I dated immediately by saying powerlifting's first, you'll always be second, vastly. And I had to learn all this the hard way. Let's just put it that way. And the only regret I have through my powerlifting career is how I treated my wife and my kids, because speed bench day was Sunday. There was not an Easter that I was there, because that's when it fell. You know, Christmas sometimes falls on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Sunday. Same type of thing. 4 years, you know, until it was all on the verge of being taken away. Then I realized, way too late, by the way, and had to fight like hell, you know, to be able to keep the marriage and keep what I'm grateful for it.
Yeah.
And it's stronger. I don't want to say because of it, right? But it's stronger, you know, but I met my wife in the gym, right? So that was kind of, and she did train at Westside for only a couple of years. I mean, she came in really with basic training experience and totaled her elite within a year, you know, and then and this was kind of Louis said this, but I'm not putting the blame on him. It's me. She trained the night crew. I trained the morning crew, you know. I also never wanted her at any meet ever, because that's my place, you know, and when I look back on it, it's exactly what you said. These are all my issues that I was dealing with, you know, that I thought this was the right thing to do, you know, to keep this separate. So I have my own thing. I get fucking married. I don't have my own. It's our thing.
Yeah, it's forever that way.
Yeah. And then when it's almost taken away, you know, and it's, thank God it was, then you realize, you know, fuck, I got nothing. I don't even have training anymore.
Yeah.
I have competing anymore. I have nothing.
It is amazing the value that almost losing anything gives to the thing that you almost lost. I mean, I just have this conversation. Someone at work, someone thought their pet was dying, and it turned out it was just like a cold.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing was, like, they loved that dog even more than ever because they accepted the fact they were going to have to like put it down. It was the same when I tore my quad. I thought I was done. I was told I was done. It was like, you're never going to squat this again. I was depressed. And then you work your way through it, and then you're on the other side of it. And it's like, yeah, I never got as good as I was, but I didn't have it taken from me. So like, yeah, when you almost lose something and you think of like, shit, like what is my life without it? You realize the value of the relationship, the whatever it is, really quick.
Well, I think that if I was to give the advice is communication.
Yeah.
I mean, real communication, right? Not just hearing what you want to hear, right? But understanding what the other person's trying to say. And then if need be, find the compromise.
Yeah.
Don't just fucking blow it off. Like it's bench day. Like the fucking Easter basket's still going to be there when I get home. It's like not that. And that's how I would frame it. It's just fucking candy and Easter, but it's larger than that, right?
You start to realize,
where if it would have been explained in a different type of way, no, if I would have listened, you know, and then asked deeper questions, like, why do you feel this way? Exactly.
Yeah.
Is this what you really mean? Like, where is this? Because the underlying root of all of it is I was just a dick.
Yeah.
You know, if I wasn't the dick all the time, then that probably wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But that was the one thing, or that is, it's always icing on the top.
Yeah.
Right. So but it can also be the first layer that you're laying down. You know, if it's that first Christmas, that makes Easter okay.
Yep.
That makes the next Christmas okay. Yeah. And then it makes all of it okay.
Excellence in anything requires like a layer of selfishness inherently. But yeah, you have to decide like when is too much. Like, where do I draw that line? It ain't easy.
Well, I agree with the selfishness, but it also requires a team.
Yeah.
Right. And being selfish is creating the right team around you to be able to help.
Yeah.
Truly being selfish would not be putting those people around you to be able to help. So people look at that like isolationist. Like if I'm this isolationist, if I'm this monk, I'm going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Sure you are. In your own fucking thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure all of our thoughts are, a lot of them are negative. Right. So you're going to sit around your own thoughts all day long, and that's going to be better than if you're hanging out with other people and being distracted from your own thoughts. It becomes a weird thing where, so you found yourself with Tristan being in this new place, or now you're the old dude that people coming to, asking for advice on balance and all this other kind of crap, which I don't know if it even exists. You just are who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And you just maximize every area of what that is. But now you're being inundated with these type of questions outside of how did you build your squad?
Yeah. It's funny how that changed. All the questions I used to get were like, how do you squat like that? How did you transfer from raw to multiply so easily? All these things. And now that I become sort of like the veteran, it turns into like these Tristan moments. I had Matt Magnavita, who was like my young lifter, and I just sort of turned into what I had been chasing. Like I became like, coach to me was that guy always. He was a training partner, but like he was like the life coach. He was the one who would talk to me and give me the lessons and impart the wisdom. And I was the one who listened. And now, like, I don't even know how it happened. At some point, like, I just became another version of him, giving his secondhand lessons to a new generation of lifters that I hope someday become another version of me. It's a cycle.
Do you think that would have happened without 1,000-pound squats and 1,000-pound benches?
I don't think so, because I think just much like with coach. So like we talked about it, like I noticed him for something that was important to me. Like I saw that 405 for 10 and I vividly remember it. Without that, I don't think I look at him to be a role model, because he's missing a key component, if that makes sense. Like he can be a great guy, but I didn't just want to be a great guy. Like I wanted it all. Like I wanted to be a big, imposing guy. It just so happened he was able to walk that line and have everything. So that's why he appealed to me. Do I think Tristan would have listened to me if my numbers weren't what they were? No, because the reason he came up to talk to me in the first place was because of who I was on the platform. Like he didn't come up to me because I had a family. Matter of fact, I know that. I don't think he cared. He came up to me because of my squat. He came up to me because of my total. That's why he was a fanboy. Sorry, Tristan, but you're a fanboy. I love you. That's what it was. And without that, he doesn't come up to me. And if he doesn't come up to me and we don't sort of develop that relationship, because he told me right from the beginning, like, you're not at all what I expected. Like, and then we had a lot in common. And I think he was able to realize, like, because he's like we do have a lot in common, me and that kid. It's not just the lifting stuff, but like his disabilities and my disabilities are the same. Like his OCD, I have a lot of so he can see himself in me, and now he can see himself in me, but he can also see like I have the numbers he wants, but it didn't require me to do the things that he thought it would require. So he kind of like shifted his mentors over from who they were to me, and then he found some success with it. And I think it's like, okay, well, this is the way.
Did he ever tell you what he expected?
What do you expect in the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was expecting me to be like a reincarnation of like Chuck, because Chuck was his original guy. Like he saw the bull ring, the tattoos, the image. And then when he came out to me, he's like, I was almost like nervous. And then you turned around and you're like smiling and giving me a hug. And it's like the first time I met you. And he's like, and I'm like, who, what? This is not, he's like, I was nervous to talk to you. And then all of a sudden we're like instantly friends and you're giving me your phone number. And, it's just not what he had expected.
All right, so now we're in this multiplay realm that becomes interesting over the time that you've been in.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not the same today as it was then.
Been through some evolutions, especially with like the shirts and all that stuff. Yeah.
It's been through a lot. So you've kind of, on one end, you got to navigate it, but on the other end, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
Right. So how have you gone about navigating that landscape just in the past 8 years? Actually, yeah. I'd say 2017, 2018, it started to get weird.
Yeah. And that's about when I started to get good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because 2017 was my first 2,500 total at the Arnold. And then, yeah, I think the band shirts were probably right around like 2020-ish. Roughly around then. Yeah. And that put another twist on things. And so I don't know. It's weird because I was the new guy. still, like even the first WPO, like, it came back in 2018, and I knew that was a big deal because I was always a fan of the sport. Even when I like was quote unquote like anti-multiply, well, there's still pictures of Donnie and Chuck and, those guys on my wall and Ryan Kennelly bleeding from the eyes. And so like, I still admired them because that's just who you admired if you liked powerlifting. Like that was the past. So I didn't even get invited to the first WPO until I reached out. So like I was kind of like the new guy navigating all this. So as I made my name, I didn't really know any better. Like I wasn't part of the history, but as it changed, I embraced the change probably better than most because I just figured I had heard stories of like when the band shirts came out, everybody who was in a poly that I knew who had been around for a long time, like, I remember this. This isn't new. This is just like when we switched to poly from canvas and denim. It's just the same thing. And so like I just kind of rolled with it. I'm like, all right, well, I'm a history teacher and the only thing constant is change. So I'll just roll with it. And I embraced it, but I didn't want to also give up the roots. So to the end, I just competed in both. And that's what I would encourage people to do. Like band shirts aren't inherently good, bad, or evil. They're just different. If you can acknowledge that they're different, that's fine.
Where's the landscape on that now? Like this year?
So
is it still as divided as it was a few years ago?
I don't know that it's as divided. It's funny because like I embraced them. Now I have this feeling like I love the band shirts. Me and Rob, who's like a pioneer in the band shirt for rail, like that's my boy. We're good friends and I love his shirts. I just wish more people would learn more components of the sport. I feel like we're starting to see a lot of 1,000-pound bench presses and 700-pound squats. I would like to see that level out some. I think there's some weird things happening there. I wish more multiply lifters would get stronger raw and realize that stuff is important too, and not just like try and buy a total. I think with these band shirts, the ease of use lends itself to some dangers. You see the broken arms and stuff like that. I would love to see people have more mastery. Like Tony Carlino is like the epitome of he can do it all. I would love to see more Tony Carlinos. Like guy can bench 1,000 in a poly, single ply, multiply, band shirt. Like he can do it all. And because he can do it all, I have more respect for the things that he's done. Like he's a great bencher because it doesn't matter what he's wearing, he's going to be successful. And I wish I could say that about more people because I love the poly, and I think it's such an important skill, and like that difficulty is part of what makes multiply, like the camaraderie of multiply, like so impactful because you don't succeed without help and the learning curve is so long. Like I don't think that's there as much as it used to be. And I kind of think people are going to miss that.
Well, one of the things I really liked when we sat down last time is you'll express what you think is real, right? Where a lot of people kind of won't, right? They'll dance around the edges a little bit. Whereas as an outsider kind of looking in, to powerlifting as a whole, but then multiply is this segment of this whole, I may be wrong because I'm not in it, right? When you're not in it, you really don't know all the components of it. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I was in it for 24 years. You really never know. But what it seems like is, all powerlifting has drama associated with it. If it's federation or personal, right? Personal, whatever, federation, whatever. Nothing's new. It's kind of all the same. But what it seems like in this multiply and unlimited world is we now have more, and it's the smallest piece of the pie. Right? Yeah. So out of 200,000 lifters that have competed on open powerlifting last year, it's like 1,800. Less than that. Probably multiply is probably less than 1,000. Unlimited gets hard to really know because of the high school powerlifting. Yeah. Right. So you really you almost have to export the database and filter them out to be able to know. But it's still probably at most 15% of all competitive powerlifters. They seem to have more federations than any other category. Yeah. Right. Which when you look at that from this outsider, it's like, why in the fuck is the smallest? This makes no sense to me.
Yeah. It doesn't fit.
Why is the smallest minority, which should be the most united, right? The smallest group of anything is usually the group that's going to pull together. Yeah. Right. But it's not. It seems to be more fractured than the other freaking 85%.
Yeah.
And I don't get it, because
I don't either. And I feel like they're tightening up the other 85%, and like
100%.
the bigger meets are getting the bigger competitors. I really thought we were on that direction with the WPO. I was hoping that was going to be like the pinnacle that brought all the best. And it seemed like for a couple of years that it might, but yeah, I wish I had a better answer to that. Ego.
I don't know. I'm trying. It's you know, the things I can just list off that could potentially be there is obviously ego. You know, money is always going to be the root of everything.
Yeah.
But how much money we really talk? I mean, if you own a federation, what are you making, like 50 grand a year? I mean, you're not like making millions of dollars.
Yeah.
You know, so that the equipment, you know, the band shirt definitely had this divide. You know, that kind of played into that, and then judging, you know, is kind of playing into all this, which kind of leads back to, I mean, all of it kind of leads back to whoever is the decision makers, right? Because bad judging at one meet is going to be a reflection on the federation, which is going to be a reflection on whoever's kind of running that. Actually, no, bad judging at one meet is a reflection on the judges, then the meet director, then the federation. I mean, it just kind of works up the chain, but nobody puts the drama on where the blame really should go. You know, it always goes to the person that actually did the lift, you know, which is the nature of all that, but it doesn't fix anything. Where it's when I just disseminate it down, it always goes up to whoever is in charge of whatever organization or federation it is the ultimate responsibility. I mean, that's a scapegoat in politics, right? It's like whoever's in, it doesn't mean that they're the cause, but they're the responsibility, right? And it seems like, and they're like any politician. They don't want to accept blame ever. They, you know, I think that's kind of like taught in politics school.
Oh, of course.
Like
never say
I fucked up. You know, it's kind of like the same thing, but nothing ever gets fixed. But then at the core of all that, the way things get fixed is the people just kind of decide we're done with this shit. And then they take their ball, go somewhere. And that's what's happening. Yeah. But it's like they take the ball to go someplace else, but they haven't defined what the someplace else should be.
Yeah.
So then that gets all fucked up.
And the problems tend to follow them there too, because people will walk away. If they go somewhere else and then they don't like their treatment there, they'll just walk away again. So instead of holding firm, the next federation just sort of does what the previous one did.
Yeah,
just have this continuation.
Define what they want to change. Yeah. You know, like I said, I don't get it. And you're still barely out, right? I don't want to say you're out because you're going to do a bench meet, but it's full meet you're retired from.
Yeah.
Right. So you're still kind of in that whole thing.
And I got so many lifters that are like in their prime right now that, but like, it's hard to find, like, there's no the meet right now. And I wish there, like, what's the meet where like you want to have a goal to get to. And it's like, if all you got is your personal numbers, it's just not the same. So having things less fractured would be great.
Well, here's some questions for you. Let's just say, let's throw some hypotheticals out. Let's say they banned the band shirt. Would that fix the issues that we see in there?
I think the issues existed before the band shirt, although I do think that enhanced them. I don't think it solves the issues. Maybe if there was a perfect way to keep things separate, I think it would have been a lot easier for people.
Okay.
Like, so I think like if record keeping could be perfect, like it's not open powerlifting's fault either. Like you add this unlimited shirt and the way that they kind of came in, it's like, oh, we'll keep them separate. But now you have like meet directors who have to adjust everything. Like, are you multiply? Are you unlimited? Well, a lot of them just would have equipped, you would check. So now you have band shirt results getting mixed in with multiply results, and that creates animosity because you have the old school lifters who are now mad that they worked hard for their total.
Haven't they resolved that though?
I know for a fact, like I just know I can look in there and find plenty that aren't resolved.
They're not resolved, but
I mean, they have the plan to resolve it, but that's what I mean when I say in a perfect world.
Well, I think so. Yeah. I mean, if we're looking at open powerlifting, some of those things just are not going to change.
Yeah.
Right. But when you go to enter the meet now, it's different.
It's pretty much different. Yeah.
So it's basically fixed, you know, to be able to push that through, but that's not going to fix the underlying issue.
Yeah.
Because it's already been changed. Right.
Yeah.
You know, so now we take that aside. If the judging was more consistent across all the federations, multiply and unlimited, would that fix the issues that we're seeing?
I think that would definitely fix the issues. If the judging was more consistent, you could get people to adapt to the judging rather than adapt to the meets that have the tough judging.
all right, I'm trying to think of the different components. If the if this is a dicey one, because there's tribes, and there's tribes in all powerlifting camps, right? But I think there's stronger tribes in the multiply because you have to require on other people to kind of be there. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a moment because we do read the comments, and one of them that keeps popping up more frequently than not is, I can't believe this video doesn't get more views. Take a minute to subscribe, leave a comment, and share. It really does help. If the tribes were less tribal, right? Less, I don't even want to say it's competitive. I don't even know how to word this. If the tribes got along, right, would that fix the issues that we see?
I think so. If there was more unity and things like that, I think that would definitely fix the issue. You see tons of fracturing. It's weird, like you said, multiply is the tightest community, but it does have a lot of drama these days. So there's like,
yeah, it's one tribe against the other tribe.
Like you said, so if they got along and were rooting for each other more than just like, I'll move and go here to take these numbers elsewhere, I think that would definitely fix it. I mean, unity is never a bad thing. Like having, like I said, I just wish there was one big meet that was like the one that everyone had to go to show up and compete at the same standards, the same day, the same judging, you know, that would really let us know who the best really were.
Well, I've always wondered if there was an entity of some sort which had power and a big voice, a big voice. It could be a celebrity, big voice. Big, yeah. No, I'm going to go a different direction with this than you think. But had authority and could be heard, like Schwarzenegger or some shit like that. Or something that carries more weight in strength sports, that basically came out and said, you know, all multiply and unlimited is complete bullshit. They shouldn't be allowed to compete like that at all. And then that pressure stayed. If that would get everybody, all the different tribes and all the different federations, to be able to say, hey, wait, no, fuck you. Because then they have a common enemy.
Yeah.
Right now.
The enemy of my enemy. So that is true.
That's not
history. We know that.
Well, see, that's no longer the case. See, that used to be the case because it would come from Raw.
Yeah.
Right. Because the Raw community was that but at this point, they're like, fuck it. We don't give a shit. We got our own stuff we need to worry about. So now there's no common enemy, you know, for them to be able to unite around. So they just fucking bicker amongst themselves. That's my theory, right? I mean, you're the history.
I can see it.
You know?
Yeah.
So so we need to use propaganda, right, to create this entity to be able to pull them all together. Because I believe that if there still is an issue of, for new lifters coming in, what I call cost of entry. I mean, it does cost a lot to be able to buy all the gear.
Yeah.
So you're looking at $1,500 plus. Now you got to travel, you got to pay the entry fee. So $2,000, which is, I don't want to say it's always been there, but it's more there now than it was before, because you don't have people sharing their gear and passing down gear like they used to before, because the tribes are too pulled in, right? You know, they're too constricted.
Yeah.
They still share amongst themselves and shit like that. But I mean, when you came in, you probably didn't have to worry about any type of gear. You had somebody that was just giving you the shit, right? And it's still kind of the case today, but not like what it used to be. So you have that big obstacle, which is still going to always exist. But you also have this other big obstacle that they don't have this unifying body, you know, to be able to, I'm not saying they need one federation. That never worked. No. Right. So what I see are people seeking answers that haven't worked in history. Yeah. Like, if we only had one federation, that would work. Well, that never worked. If we didn't have this gear, you know, well, it didn't fucking work with the canvas suit. It didn't work with I competed when there were no bench shirts. Yeah. You know, so the bench shirts, poly bench shirts, down bench shirts, back to poly bench shirt. You know, it didn't work then. You see what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the biggest difference now that hasn't existed before in history. And the only thing I can come up with is, well, the two is that camaraderie amongst the whole field. Yeah. And the judging. Yeah. Because in the past, the judging would always, and I hate this, and I hated it, and I was I don't want to say victim. I was part of it. When there's the overcorrection, it sucks. Yeah. It absolutely sucks. because half the meat's going to bomb out.
Yep.
I was always one of them. You know, it sucks, right? But the difference there is all it took was Herb Glassbrenner to write something to Powerlifting USA because there was no social media and all this other kind of stuff. And then the Federation meat director was like, oh, fuck, we got to fix this or they're all going to go to this other federation and now we're not going to have a federation.
Yeah.
So then the overcorrection. And if you're smart, you figured out, okay, overcorrection is going to happen. We're going to go over here now. You know, you move around, right? But there's only a couple places to go. Is that kind of, am I kind of on the mark?
I think you're on the mark there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I've been part of that too. Like this is not my first time where the high, you see like the meets, like the WPO, the first time I went there in 2018, you lost half the field. It was too strict. Then in 2019, you lost half the field. It was too strict, according to some people. I made it through both. But then you saw a couple high ones go, and then you saw it get too like crazy strict. I actually bombed out of the one with, and I will die on this hill. The deepest squat I ever did on a WPO platform, die on the hill. The deepest squat I ever did was the only time I ever bombed out. So I was part of the overcorrection there. I didn't think my training changed. And then all of a sudden what happens? You don't see the WPO as big anymore. It's still big. It's still got people, but like, you know, one of my lifters did it last time. So I was there. And now you have like, you have Holy Wars has some people, you have this has some people, and you go right back to where we were before, because like you said, overcorrection happens. People find a new place to play. And
how do you help the lifters that you're mentoring navigate it?
I mean, I just like to say that we can squat to wherever the hell we want to. You got to be ready for anything.
No, but I'm talking navigate where they're going to go.
Oh, like which meets to pick? We just try and find the most competition. Like they learn, if you learn by watching people, they learn by watching me. And you know my powerlifting history. I go wherever. Like I'll go to any meet. I've competed 2 weeks in a row. I've competed like my first 2,700 pound total. My second one was like a few weeks later. So I'll go and lift wherever. And like when it comes to high squats, my thing is always like I put it where they tell me to. So I'm an athlete first. So every tap I've ever taken, you can tell me I squatted high. I'm like, okay, sorry. Talk to the judges. Someone tells me to come up, I'm coming up. They don't tell me to come up, I'm going to wait till they tell me to come up. So I've got squats I've buried. I've got squats I can admit were high. And every meet except for the WPO meets, because they didn't do taps. Every meet except for that, I've taken a tap from a judge, and that sort of locks in the two whites. So athletes are going to athlete.
Well, of course. I mean,
it's the nature of athletics. Like if I'm a pitcher and the ump's got a big strike zone, I'm throwing outside all day.
That's why, and none of that's why in none of those scenarios I presented did I put the athlete there.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's the judges.
Yeah.
Right. But then the judges are a reflection of the meet director. Yep. Right. So it's the responsibility needs to be placed where it needs to be. And it may be that fuck it, they don't want to deal with it. Then they just let it go. And there's always been meets to do that. Right. So that's always kind of part of it as well.
I mean, maybe having more judge accountability and certification could be something, because a lot of you know, it's like you can be a judge anywhere.
Yes.
So that could be a solution, to have like some sort of accountability for the judges. But again, I don't know how that works, because who's going to pay for it? Like, then how hard is it to get judges? Does that make price go up? You know? Because ultimately it's hard. You know, when you're judging your friends, it's hard. Now for me, it's easy. When I'm judging my friends, it sucks for my friends.
Well, I put on a few meets, and I'll never do it again, but I put on a few meets, and there's a lot of variables that outsiders don't understand.
Yeah.
Right. So you may have, 3 people that are good judges, that are certified in whatever they're judging it, and one of them doesn't show up. Right. Or there's shit always happens.
Yeah.
Always happens. And spotters as well. So then spotters a little bit easier because other crews will step up. That's a better attribute today than I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like spotters are not a problem.
No.
Right. Getting that, but getting the judges is. Where sometimes you're pulling somebody out of a crowd, you're pulling somebody that's, coming with your crew, just to be able to sit there, and it can get dicey when you're, John Bott hated me for like 3 years because I red lighted him, on a squat in the nationals that I thought was high. But I learned from that experience, anytime somebody that I knew or was sponsored, with the company, I moved from the side to the head.
Yeah.
It's
similar to judge.
Yeah. I couldn't move out because you didn't have somebody else to step in, but I can move that situation to be able to take that off.
I know whether you went up and down, so that's an easy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's pretty fucking simple to call. And which also brings me to another rant. It's all, I've always kind of fallen in this camp that the head judge can call depth if it's ridiculously
I think so too.
Right. And that's always been combat. Like, no, you're not allowed to call depth. It's like, dude, it was a fucking mile high, and I can.
The only time I ever argued with a head judge over depth, I got a red for depth from the front and a white from a side. And I'm like, it was not visibly high. Like it, if that one's giving me a white, either they're blind or you're wrong.
Well, normally,
if you're giving me a red for depth, you say, I've got a problem with it.
Yeah.
Didn't change anything, but that's the only time I ever complained. I'm like, I'm sorry.
No,
if I have a white
that.
on the side,
I get that.
I'm not that high.
Yeah, it should be reviewed.
Yeah.
Something like that. With just recently you did your last full meet.
Yeah.
Going into that full meet, did you know it was going to be your last?
Yeah, so I kind of health stuff.
Well, actually, are you sure it's your last?
My last full, but you ain't gonna see me deadlifting. Rita's federation has a squat only. I won't say 100% no, but that's not what I'm thinking right now. I'm just going to be a bench only guy for a while. Seems like fun. I still get to show up to the meets. I have a reason to be there, but I get to show up late. I get to eat a full breakfast. I get to help my crew for the parts that matter. It wasn't an easy decision. Like I've had some health things, need a new hip, stuff like that. And ultimately, as I got ready for the Strength of Heroes meet, the one that I did this September, I told myself I was going to train all summer. I was going to give everything I had to that meet, and we're going to see where the chips fall. Trained real hard, had a good prep, had a good result. Benched 1105, which was my biggest bench. It was the first PR I hit since before I tore my quad back in 22. So that was big, but the end total was a 2805. Unlimited. Great. Super happy, except it's still 100 pounds less than my best. And I just thought to myself, like, there's not 105 pounds on the bone. Like, I don't have that anymore. And I had to then decide, like, do I want to keep, I don't say risking my health, but like beating up my body, risking my health a little bit, like chasing something if I can never be the best version of myself. Like, sure, I can still be good, but like, is that enough for me? Is it worth risking injuries further? And the answer was no. So then I decided like I wanted to have like a nice moment to go out. So like I picked my last meet. So I did know at that point. So like when I signed up for Holy Wars, and then of course being me, I had to do something to make it hard. So I'm like, all right, we'll do the meet, but I'll cut to 242. Like I just competed at 308 in September. Like what's the hard thing? Well, it's not going to be about the weight because I wanted to make sure I finished. Like I don't want to bomb out my last meet. That would have sucked. So like I lowered my openers. I was more like ceremonial. I like Skiba. He had a great crew of guys there. It was a lot of fun, what's his face was like I had John Rupo. It's at his gym. Like we're friends. I love the family. So it's like I gave myself a nice send off that I deserved. I didn't even have to pull my last deadlift because I intentionally I picked my total. I talked about it in the book. I'm like, I'm gonna total 10 times body weight at 242, totaled 2420. It's like 10 times. There it is. Yep. I wanted to squat 1,100 pounds in one more weight class. So now I got it in 3. So I'm like, all right, did that. Deadlifted to make it exactly 2420. I said, don't, I'm not going to pull my last. Play my music. I'm going to walk off into the sunset. And that's what I did.
Tell me the story about your first 1,100 pound bench, which is in the book.
The first 1,100 pound bench, the one I did like the special, it was so cool. And I owe that kid, I don't even know his name, which is sad. Like so I'm doing this. It's right before I got hurt too, which is going to sound weird. Like getting hurt after doing something amazing almost made the injury easier to deal with because like I just did something that I never expected to do. So like, yeah, the injury sucked, but like I could coast off like the dopamine hit from that for a little while. But so I had benched 1,000 pounds a couple times. I'd went out and done Tiny Meeker's Baddest Bencher. So I was like starting to get a name as like a pretty good bench press guy. Well, Dave Kingwooder had this idea. He runs the Special Olympics in New York, like the Special Olympics powerlifting. I run the Special Olympics powerlifting in New Jersey. So he knew that. We're kind of friends because through Rita West, we became friends. And he had this idea. He was going to have like the strongest bencher of New York, which was Rich Putnam, get together at his gym the night before a meet in this like UFC-esque looking cage thing that they had set up. And we were going to have like a mano a mano bench off. I'm like, cool. Whatever for the Special Olympics, let's raise some money. So we like sold tickets and this, that, and the other, had like a nice crowd there. And, Rich and I are going to go head to head. Well, the first part of the story that's hilarious is I have horrible meet anxiety. I did not know this was a meet. Like when I tell you I didn't know it was a meat, I didn't prepare like a meat. When he had me weigh in, I should have. I'm like, whatever. I guess he just wants to know. Like maybe there's no thought, no thought. I weighed in my sneakers. Like no thought of me is thinking like. So we get to a point where now he's like, all right, what do you want to open with? I'm like, what's Richie doing? He's like, he's doing. I think he said like 1055 or something. I'm like, all right, I'll do that. Just give me a two board. And he's like, what do you mean? Like I haven't been in this shirt, Dave. Like I just got done. I was training for the WBO. I'm like, this is only my second workout in my band shirt. I'm like, I haven't touched in 6 months. He's like, Bob, this is a meat. I didn't have time to be nervous. I'm like, wait, what? Like, yeah, there's judges. You didn't say. I'm like, no, no clue.
No, you just thought it was like a fundraiser.
No, I thought we were just having like, a little bench off between Rich and I. Was only two of us. I didn't expect him to bring in judges. If I had read my emails.
Yeah.
Like it was not Dave's fault. He was very clear. I'm just like space cadet and just thinking what I'm doing. Like no part of my mind. So I'm like, I don't know. I guess give me 10-10 and wish me luck.
Mm-hmm.
So I benched 10-10. I bench 1,060, which was a PR at the time. I'm thrilled. That's a huge. I'm like, yes, best day ever. I go to pass my third, and I didn't even have a chance to go to pass my third because right after the 1060, this little kid who was like one of the Special Olympic athletes comes up to me. He's like, "Are you going to do 1100?" I'm like, "Nah, buddy. Like I've never even tried that before. That 1060 was more than I've ever held in my hands. Like I am happy." He's like, "You can do it. I believe in you. Here." And he like puts. I'm like, "All right." Can't let a kid. I'm like, I guess load it. And like the last thing I said to my spotters was like, guys, just don't let this fall on me. I don't know what this is going to feel like. This is not. I don't think this is going to go well. This is probably not my smartest decision. So like when it went, no one in that room was more surprised than me. Because I mean, I put it on the bar. They probably assumed I had a shot. The only person who didn't think that was happening, including that kid, was me. So when it happened, I like looked at him like, oh my God. That was a moment for me. Like I just became, I guess, technically the first person to have an 1100 and I got it tattooed. It was like 1,100 pound squat, 1,100 pound bench. I didn't even know that it meant something because I didn't have time to develop that goal.
So what did it feel like when you took it out?
It was heavy as shit. I'm literally thinking in my head, like, I want to miss this not bad. Like, I'm not like at no point am I thinking this is going to go well. Like I'm just like, don't look stupid, but more importantly, don't hurt yourself and give this kid a good show. Like I'm just not going to let him down, not trying. Like when it went up, I was shocked. It moved better than my 1060. Like I don't know. Divine intervention.
Yeah.
That kid, I owe him one. It was awesome.
That's a little bit of a mess with your head because now you're thinking back to I wasn't training for it. I was stronger. I wasn't ready for it, which might have worked.
Yeah. There was only one other time in my entire powerlifting career where like a lift shocked me. And it was in Shippensville, Pennsylvania. I'd totaled 2,700 for the first time, like a couple weeks before. And I literally entered, it was actually the first meet I did with Rob Farrell. So he's hosting this big meet and he had like a $2,500 prize cash. And I'm like, I can win that. That's decent money for a day. So like I literally went there just knowing like, I figure I got a total 2,550 and everyone, this is money's in the bag. I can look at the competitors, like, what they're going to total. I'm like, all right, I squat 1,150 that day. I'm like, game over. I actually took my opener bench raw. I benched like 460 or something because I'm like, I think I can win with this here raw bench based on how squats went. Like, I'm not going to give up this money. We're going home. We're going to Universal. We're going to take a family trip. Like, this is fantastic. End up hitting a decent bench anyway. I have 7 something. Bruce Mason takes the money for the bench. He had a good bench day. And so I'm like, I'll deadlift. I opened my deadlift raw too. Cause I'm like, I'm not, this money is mine. I'm just like open with whatever I opened with raw. Then I pulled 740 on a second and it was so goddamn heavy that I'm like, perfect. 26, whatever. Definitely won the meet. No one's close. I want to pass my third. And Bruce Mason and Matt Magnavita are harassing me about passing a third deadlift. Like, who passes a third deadlift? And I'm like, did you see? You saw my 740, right? You saw me almost get stapled with that. Like, what do you want me to pull? They're like, pull for a PR. I'm like, I'd have to pull 795. At the time, it wasn't a PR at the time. I had pulled 800, but deadlift only. Not benching and squatting. So like, it's not in the cards. well, Matt sets my straps and Bruce Mason, and they pry me in there. And I'm literally thinking, like, guys, if I start to grab my bicep, don't get nervous. I'm just like, we're preparing for this miss. Same thing kind of happens. Like I locked out that deadlift and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how that happened. It's just lucky.
Well, it's interesting to think about the motivation behind it, because
I was peer pressured into that deadlift. Like Matt still brags about it to this day.
Well, in both those cases, you're mentally, though, you're thinking more technically than you normally would.
Yeah.
Because your main objective is to not get hurt.
I don't want to get hurt and ruin my day.
Which is going to make you lock in
yeah.
way better technically than what you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's kind of like a lot of our motivation is stemmed around not who we want to be, but who we don't want to become. Yeah. Right? So it's two different frames. And I think for most, we're more motivated by who we don't want to become, not who we want to be, right? But a lot of the focus and the motivation sphere is focused on who you want to be, act as if, all this other kind of stuff. Where in reality, I think the bigger motivation is I don't want to be this. Right. So you can see that probably with a lot of your students and a lot of other athletes is the motivation is to not be this. As long as I'm not this, then whatever this is good.
Yep.
Right. It's actually an easier mindset to work from because you have more options. There's more opportunities you can see.
Just not there.
Just not there. Yeah. Right. And that's the drive with a lot of athletes that end up going all in because they have that part that's, I don't want to be that, but then they lock in over here. And I think they miss a lot of opportunities by doing that too.
Yeah.
Right. Become too narrow-minded, as we talked about earlier, right. Using the sword all the time. Right. And then losing that opportunity of all the other things that can help propel that. Because a lot of strength athletes don't learn those things until it's too late. You start falling apart. Then you're like, oh shit, maybe nutrition matters.
Yeah.
Right.
Turns out what you put in the tank is important.
Yeah. But you can get away with it for a long period of time. And it's only through people like yourself talking about it that can get the younger lifters ready to be able to, and I think that's a big reason why power lifters and strength athletes are better today than they were before, because they're listening to the people. And I just made a post about this one, I believe. They're listening to the people that came before them, but the people before them don't understand how this works.
Yeah.
Right. They think that they're going to listen the first time. Then I remind them, you didn't listen the first time.
No, you got to hammer it.
Yeah. It took like 100 times.
Yeah.
Right. You just happened to be the 101st time. Yeah. On a few occasions and think that it was you that actually did it, but you forget about the other 100 people that said the same thing. We see this with cues, right?
Oh, yeah.
All the time where you're like, motherfucker, I've been telling you this for 6 months. There's
nothing worse than when you get a guest lifter and they say something to your lifter and your lifter listens and they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, don't even start.
Yeah. But it takes that many for that person. Let's say it takes 85 times.
Yep.
And that was the 80 without your previous 84. That didn't happen.
Yep.
But you're not rewarded for the other one. You know what I'm saying? You love the fact when it's yours that worked, but you forget the foundation was laid.
I've been on both sides of that, so it's funny. Like I know you're right there because like I've been the one who gives the cue and watch people be like, you listen to him.
Yeah.
And I've been the one who looks at my training partners, be like, I have been telling you that for years.
Yes. Yes. And it's frustrating. It's very frustrating if you're the person and a lot is shut down.
Yep.
Right? They're like, fuck it, I'm not messing with it anymore. Right? Now, I will say I won't mess with it until the person has kind of displayed that they're serious about what they're doing. Because then it ends up just being, if you have somebody that's new that comes into this doesn't happen with you, but if you had a bigger place, bigger gym and a new person that comes in, you got to kind of like watch for a little while.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be normal before I spend like an hour showing them how to actually set up their brace? Or what? But once it is, then it's locked in, and then you kind of go. Yours is a little different because it's your house.
Yeah.
People aren't going to be there unless you invited them in. How has the crew changed over your time?
So the crew, I still got a lot of the staples, but we went through ebbs and flows. And honestly, recently it's been great because like after my injury, we were at our lowest point. Like it sucked because I'm out. Now I'm not leading. My buddy Alex Bartolino, who's like one of our other great lifters, been there forever. Like he's now carrying the weight of that. But we also lost Magnavita left. So he was like my number one. Like he was the other me. He had done WPOs. Anna McCluskey, who was like our greatest female lifter, like she took the world record from Laura. She squatted 785. Like it was big squat. We lost her. She moved down to Florida. My lightweight lifter, he left. So like we shrank in numbers, but more importantly, like we shrank in like experience. Like a lot of the experienced people left, and you can't replace them with bodies. And we tried, but we couldn't. So like it was like a low point. And then luckily recently, I think sort of my end kind of brought us back together, because I reached out to people who had left. I'm like, listen, this is my kind of my last dance, my swan song here. Like I kind of want to go out with the people who were in it with me. Lou came back, my lightweight guy. Magnavita came back and actually did that meet with me, even though he lost like 1,000,000 pounds. He did the meet with me sort of to ceremoniously wrap up his career, because he has had some injuries and stuff. But now I think we realize, because we were brought back together, like I think we're going to stay, like, because even though it's all done, like we're still training. So like we got different levels of training people now. So like we have our guys who are still in it all the way. But now you've got some guys like me, Matt, and who are on the other side of things. And I think that lends itself well for training. Like, I think that's a good thing.
I want to take a second to throw a quick shout out to my friends over at Mastonomics. They have some of the greatest t-shirts. Their memes are incredible. Their YouTube gym tours are great. These drink spotter things, I got about 7 of them out here. Snap them on power racks, put smelling salts in it, drinks. I think they hold up to 10 pounds, or they have different sizes of these. These are great. They made coasters out of stall mats, which is amazing. But what I really wanted to let you know is to go check out gymradar.com. They launched a website that's going to help people find home gyms that they can train at, and to be able to put your own home gym on there and not only be able to find where it is, but see what they actually have. And it's also great for product reviews, because people are putting the products that they have in this Gym Radar. Just go check it out. It's great. So it's www.gymradar.com. And also check out Mastonomics. Check out their website, check out their Instagram. The memes are great. And check out their YouTube. No, I think it will be a good thing, because you're still going to experience it. There's going to be an identity shift.
Oh, I'm living it right now.
Yeah. The more people that go through it with you, the easier it is to be able to manage, right? Because it's one of the worst things I see with the strength athletes is they don't get through it. I'm not saying that they axe themselves or whatever it is, but they end up being way too old, way too big, and then health issues beyond joints and shit like that start to accumulate for something that they think might come back, and it's not. Mother Nature's kind of undefeated.
Yes.
And
time doesn't lose.
But it's hard. Right.
It's so hard,
because it's been your whole life. I mean, you've been this size, this big, all this, you've had the sword this whole time. Right. So through this, it was interesting to read, because I relate to a lot of it and I kind of know where you're at in this space. And you're kind of asking yourself, and I wonder how the writing process of it was. You're asking yourself as you're going through that, what if I would have chosen the ball?
Yeah.
Right. So after this was completed, what is your conclusion to that question?
I still don't know. I mean, I think in a certain way, I allowed myself to not just have the sword anymore at a certain point anyway. So like if choosing the sword is the path that I took, I would say for probably the last like 5 or so years of my life, at the tail end of my career, I haven't been as hyper-focused. Like I have let myself miss training. I have let myself off the hook if I needed to stop early in training. Like I've let myself listen to my body. So like in a way, and I've done more things. Like we've traveled. Like there was never a time where we were taking non-powerlifting vacations with my family. Like I've put them first. So I kind of know what it's like. But also, like, had I chosen it from the beginning, like, I don't think I have the things that I have. Like, I would never change anything, because I love this stuff. I never saw myself writing a book that hundreds of people would buy, and without choosing the sword and having the powerlifting, I don't know what the hell I'm writing about.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something. I mean, I won't know, but I wouldn't change it. And as far as the process of writing the book, originally it started out as like a powerlifting book. Like, it was like 250 pages, and it still might have been good, but like, as I read through it, it didn't have like a steady message. And I'm like, I got two directions I could go. I could make this all about powerlifting, and make some changes to make it more powerlifting. There's a lot more numbers, a lot more meat stories, a lot more like training day methodology stuff in there. Or that already kind of exists. I could take out a lot of the powerlifting and trim this thing down and focus more on like the journey itself. And I think that matters more because as a teacher, it's like, it's powerlifting adjacent. It's about powerlifting, but you could substitute almost anything. It's like a pursuit, like the pursuit of the thing itself is more important. And I think it finds its place there better. Like, I think more people can relate to it because it's not so heavy into just powerlifting.
When I wrote the Under the Bar book, as I wrote that, it was more aspirational, kind of what I wanted to become.
Yeah.
Right. To where my wife would tell me when she read it, it was all bullshit. Right. And it's more aspirational.
Yeah.
I kind of knew where I wanted to be. And then the next one was like Raising the Bar, which was after going through a lot of serious type of shit. So it was kind of like right at the end of that journey. And then this last year I put together this, it's just a series of a bunch of blog posts that I threw together for the Racking the Bar. Right? Yeah. But it took 12 years to go from that one to the other one, right? To where this is kind of like the Under the Bar and the Raising the Bar, right?
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right. To where that next chapter, I want to ask, like, what would that next chapter say? But I would be a fucking hypocrite because it took like almost 15 years for me to even formulate what that next one was.
I'd love to know that. I kind of wrote that in the end of the book. I'm like, I don't know. This isn't the end. It's the end of it. It's a transition. It's not the end of the journey, but in terms of where it goes from here, who knows? Like I said, I never anticipated writing a book in the first place. So the simple fact that I did and liked it means I guess I like teaching more than just middle schoolers. And I've loved like some of the messages and like the cool interactions with people I've had because of this have been very fulfilling. Like some of the stories and things that have come from it have been just awesome.
With the other book, what I want to do is I went through and pulled some of these quotes that you have in there that you elaborate on. The first one I'm going to throw back at you is actually the title here, which is, Moderation is for Cowards.
Yep.
From Lone Survivor 2013. Yep. Okay.
Chris Kyle.
So, so what does that mean to you? How do you define that?
So the beginning of that quote, if you know the whole quote, actually helps it. He says, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. So basically the first thing you have to decide is like, what is worth your time? So to me, like, that's kind of like when we said, like choosing your balance, like, it's like, what is worth my time? For me, it's family, my career. I say my career, not teaching, like the kids, really. It's the kids. It's not even the names and dates and facts. It's like my family, the kids that I choose to be there for. Lifting. They're the big three. So like, if I'm going to do those things, like I have to do them to the best of my ability. And when I say moderation's for cowards, like that's what I feel like you should, like if you're going to do something, do it. Don't do things halfway. So otherwise you're just being kind of soft. So it's that simple to me. It's been almost like I love, like I actually got this from John Ammerman, who told me it's like reminds him of me, that quote. And it was really funny because when my daughter went into middle school, she thought it was my quote and they had to pick a quote that they would like write about. And like her teacher came back to me and it's like, oh, this is like, she gave me her worksheet because she went to my school and it was her talking about that. And she took from it almost that exact sort of lesson, which made me feel kind of good because we never talked about it.
Which brings up another question that when lifting 10 years from now can't be the same as what it is now, right? What moderation for cowards is kind of defined.
Yeah.
And when new opportunities will present themselves, you're going to look at that with a little bit different perspective because you know what that entails.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to do it, you're going to do all of it.
Yep.
Which makes all those opportunities very interesting opportunities because it's not just that opportunity. Let's say you want to start your own federation, right?
Yep.
Right. You're going to look at that and it's not going to be like, okay, it's just starting your own. You're going to look at that like, okay, this is going to take this, and this, and 15 other things I'm not even expecting, which are all going to be more work and harder and more uncertain. So you can vet those opportunities different, but the other option is, you know what, I'm fucking good, so we're just going to focus on these other two things.
Yep.
Right. And then the lifting ends up not being what it was, right? Because it doesn't take all of that to be able to go in. That's what you're getting ready to go through, right?
I'm already kind of seeing it. Like I find myself with more time than I used to have already.
Yes.
And it's like you have to fill that time with something.
But that's the dicey part, right? Because everything that you're looking at, unless you redefine how you look at those things, are all these giant commitments that you already know what that takes. It's kind of like the curse of this all-in philosophy type thing.
Well, right now I started writing. I've been writing more. I'm like, oh, right now that fills the time, but also I'm like, I enjoy it. And do I keep doing it? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what obstacles get in the way and what fulfillment I get from it.
The next one, learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
That's a great one. And that's a great lesson for my middle schoolers, for my kids. I tell my daughter a version of that all the time that I break down for her. I'm like, for her, I say, if you wouldn't ask for someone's advice, you shouldn't care about their opinion. But it's just my take on that quote, kind of how I'd explain it to a kid. And it says the same thing, because like learn to be indifferent to what makes no difference. It's like, if it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. So it doesn't matter. With her, I say, like, would you care about, like, would you ask that person for help? Well, no. Then why are you letting their opinion of you it doesn't matter. If you don't care about someone's opinion of you, then it really doesn't matter whether it's negative, positive, or anything. So I say that to her and to my students all the time. You got to focus on the things that matter. You're wasting time getting involved in something that when you really stop and think about it, you don't really care about.
How do they receive that? Because it's easier said than done.
It is definitely easier said than done. With my daughter, she'll scoff at it, this, that, and the other, tell me I don't understand. And eventually, she'll come back and be like, damn, you were right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't expect her to follow it the first time either. I expect her to sort of like have that in the back of her head, because, she's not going to listen. Just like we talked about, you didn't listen to your parents. I didn't listen to my parents. But having it in the back of your head makes you realize it. I think like when you start to realize it on your own, like you said, you have to hear something 85, 100 times. When you start to realize it, like, you're like, oh shit, I feel like someone told me this before. Like this rings a bell. And, so it's not an easy process, but like just getting in the back of their head. And I don't preach it at her. I just say it when she tells me her problems or whatever they are. That's just something that I say all the time. But I love Marcus Aurelius, so I had to give him I was going to put my own quote in there. It's funny with that one, because I love the idea. If you wouldn't ask for advice, their opinion doesn't matter. It's just something that I say all the time.
When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be.
Letting go of your preconceived notions allow you to, if you think you're one thing and you work so hard to be that thing, you're limiting yourself. In powerlifting, it could be something as simple as what I went through with a weight class. I told myself I was a 220. Do I think that was a good thing? No, it held me back. I worked so hard to stay a strong 220 that I'm over 6 foot tall. I probably should have just been a 242 or a 275 or a 308 like I eventually ended up. But I told myself, it's probably Dan Green's fault. I told myself as I looked, I'm like, no, look at these cool guys. Like, look at these people, these 220s, I want to chase their numbers. And instead of, imitation, I should have been like, I want to be the best. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm going to find out. Like, I just want to do everything possible to climb as high as I can and see where that leaves me, not just pick what I want to be and just be the best version of that. You're pigeonholing yourself.
You cannot swim for new horizons until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore.
Oh, that's something. You got some good ones. You got to take a leap of faith. You can't play everything safe. There's inherent risk in anything done well. As a history teacher, I teach the kids, we start talking about like the first people to go exploring. Well, before they had, the astrolabe where you look at the stars and the magnetic compass and stuff, people would take very inopportune shipping routes. They just sail along the coast because they were scared. But that's not efficient. It's slow. It takes more time. You waste more money. You leave the shore and you follow, you trust the compass, you trust the astrolabe, you trust where you're going. You're going to get farther. You're going to get farther faster. And that just seems to be a better way to do it. But honestly, you have to embrace risk. Nothing great is ever going to be done without some level of risk. And then you can't fail, because if you don't risk, you can't fail. And failure is important. That's another thing people don't understand. Failing is essential.
Well, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's what they don't
embrace it. It's not a bad thing. Failure is a good thing. It's hard to explain to someone who isn't, because it never feels good. But when you look at your successes, everyone look at you, they come from a failure. They come from that moment where you realize, like, this doesn't fucking work. Like, I gotta plan better.
Well, this becomes an interesting one here because you're a history teacher.
Yeah.
Right. So history is written by the victors.
Yeah.
So how do you go about teaching history, but giving perspective on what it really is?
History is written by the victors for sure. But if you're a good teacher, and I consider myself to be one, we always look at both sides. So like, I obviously teach it from the victors,
yes.
But like, so the first class I do every year, we talk about perspective. And that's my biggest thing that I want these kids to understand, because again, names, dates, facts, irrelevant. Sorry, but unless you want to be killer at Jeopardy someday, like, that shit doesn't matter. Old dead white dudes did old dead white dude things that are essentially irrelevant in today's world. We're walking around with pocket computers and shooting signals from space into we've progressed, but the lessons haven't changed. So I take them outside and we do this activity where we just grab a bunch of shit, like the little tech deck skateboards and like some dolls and cups and random shit. And we take pictures on our phones that intentionally distort perspective. So it might be like, I might have a kid standing in the distance who looks like they're the same size as this element can. Or I might have a kid look like they're standing on their tech deck. And then we take these pictures, we bring them in, I display all their pictures on the board, and I ask them, like, are these pictures accurate? And they're like, no. And I'm like, well, think about it. Are they? Well, I guess so. And I'm like, all right, could they be misleading? Well, yeah. And that takes us into a whole conversation. I'm like, well, is that a good thing, a bad thing? Well, it depends. Like, who are we trying to lead? Where are we trying to lead? Why are we trying to lead them? Then it brings us into like social media. Like, how many of you post the first picture that you take on social media? No hands go up. Why not? I want to try and make sure I get the perfect one. All right, so when you look at someone's social media and you're jealous of their life, what are you really jealous of? Only what they want you to see. So like, perspective is important. It's the same way when we read our textbook. Like, I start teaching Columbus, or I'm like, is he a good guy or bad guy? Well, fuck, it depends. Did he cut off your hand because you didn't find gold, or did he make you rich? Because if you ask one guy, I'm going to be like, I love this guy. I'm rich because of him and famous. But like, if you ask the Taino tribe member who got chopped up because they didn't come back with the right gold, well, fucking, he chose the sword for a bad reason. So once they kind of understand that, history is written by the victors, but if you really want to understand it, you got to look at it a little bit deeper.
Well, I like the perspective part, right? Because everything's a psyop. Everything's marketing and a psyop.
Yeah.
Everything's messaging.
Well, like, social media, like, is it free? Yeah, it's not. You're for sale. You are for sale. Like, that's the social media thing that I get with these kids. Like, you're giving them your time. And with that becomes like, you're the product.
20 years ago, maybe not even 20 years ago, a long time ago, a good friend of mine worked in PR, right? Then I remember going through a newspaper and him showing me how many of these articles were basically planted because a PR firm planted that in there for this reason or this reason. And all of a sudden I'm like, the fuck is this? Like, this is all just marketing and advertising and persuasion and influence. And he said, what do you think the media is? Yeah. And I'm like, oh, you know
what? So I said I've been right. I said I've been writing, right? This is an aside, but it relates. The one book that I'm writing on is called Selling the News. And I look at the news from like different eras. And when you realize that, like, the news started out to be informative because we all watch the same news. Like, I will say my parents, but probably like my grandparents, you're walking like the Cronkite golden era. Like, everyone watches that news. So if you and me are debating, we're debating from the same screen, the same news, the same facts. It's apples to apples. Like, that's gone. And then as I grew up, you were still kind of watching the same news. You had cable. So like, we might have like a CNN. So like, but now you don't have to wait for updates either. So like, now we're not talking about the 6 o'clock news from the day before. You're watching the TV, getting news in real time. That changes things. So we're having kind of the same argument or the same discussions, but you might be a couple hours ahead of me depending on when you last plugged in. And now you're not even watching the same news. You're not even getting the same story. Like, you got what I call it the algorithmic news. Like, now you're getting what you're fed. And so that's the next book, but that was a bear to write.
No, I can see that one being a bear.
It's going to be fun. Like I'm enjoying the process because it's something that I think about. It's you're the product. Like it's called selling the news because you're for sale. And we've changed from like everyone watching the same TV to kind of watching like a couple TVs at different times to now you are only told what you want to be told or what they want you to be told.
Well, it becomes very interesting because there's two paths that I see. One is you have to watch all of it and put all the time to try to figure out what's consistent across all these, or you just check out.
Yeah.
Right. And if you just check out, then I don't know if that's a good thing either. I mean, personally it is.
Oh, yes.
Personally, 100% it is. I was way happier before I gave I didn't even know who my fuck our governor was until 2020. I did not know. And, you know, but it wasn't anywhere I could focus on the things that mattered, which I think people need to get back to doing, is focus on the things you can't control.
Yes.
Also, the whole fucking book, everything that we talked about. Focus on all the things that you can control and realize that this 10%, you really have no control anyhow outside of voting. Right. That's really it.
Like I said, wouldn't ask advice. Don't care about the opinions.
Yeah. Just focus there. And or you're going to spend an inordinate amount of time, you know, trying to go through to be able to see what's not psyop because all sides are psyops.
And even if you spend that time, you still don't know. There's no clear cut answer, no matter how much time you spend. So
well, that becomes interesting, right? Because if that's true, which I believe it is, then that would be the people that are making the decisions also don't have a good answer.
I don't think they do. They just want what sells.
Yeah. Fucked up.
What keeps the attention on.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, that's attention is what it is.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll come out of this attention economy and end up in some other type of economy. But I mean, your history, I mean, you come in and out of all these different things.
Yes, you do.
Right. So this is not permanent.
Spread and circus.
And you don't know what's next. Right.
Yep.
With that in mind, what's the best way people can get a hold of you?
Best way, social media. Instagram's my favorite. So Merkh1776 on Instagram is like the best one. I got the book stuff linked in the bio there. I'm not super tech savvy. My daughter did it. Yeah. So I think you can click it and go get the book. But yeah, if you want to talk to me, that's the best way. Facebook is just my name. So they're the best ways. I answer my DMs. I love training questions, life questions, whatever.
We'll have the books in the description. I highly recommend people get them both, but get the Moderation is for Cowards if you're a meathead. If you're into strength and conditioning, I think everybody should actually read it, but it's going to really resonate if they're in the community that we're in, because it's very well written. Like I said before, it's not just, and I've done it. It's not just throwing a book together that's a series of blog posts that you try to organize in some chronological order. You did a good job here.
Thank you.
It was very good. Any final thoughts?
No, like I said, I appreciate if anyone wants to reach out, you certainly can. I do know that, I don't know when this is going to air, but March 28th, that book will be $1.
Okay. Yes, I believe I have. It's kind of funny that I'm going to say this. It's going to March 22nd. I mean, people.
Oh, no, sorry.
Yeah. So in a few days, this will be $1.
Well, that way you don't have to worry about if it's a financial strain. But I wanted, like, Amazon wants their pound of flesh and their money. So I made it as cheap as I can because I just care about getting the lessons out there. I'm forever the teacher. As always, with a final thought, I'll thank my family because, like I said, they made a lot of sacrifices for me to be able to do the things that I'm doing, and my students too. So, like, this is just a good give back to them. I hope they can appreciate what I say about them and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's who knows what the next chapter is. Well, next time I talk to you, I don't know where I'll be. Maybe I'll be benching big, or maybe I'll be talking about that news book. Who knows?
Well, you'll be helping people.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is the theme that's gone on since this started. So, and I thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we're done.
All right.